Water's all over the place. So I'm going to just ask the interpreters now if you would just make an announcement about interpretation services for tonight's meeting.
Good evening, everybody. This is Android Interpreter Forum, and it's forum.
Keep the mic that's
And also, we have any audience that you Android Chinese interpretation.大家晚上好。那么我们今晚的会议呢，话在现场的让我家长通过这个办发言的话，需要在第三的话，请到机构服务。If anyone in this session, you can always have a good look at that. Not just for those that are in the city, but the people really in the market. Thank you.
Are there any other interpreters that would like to make an announcement? For those people who have just arrived, please be advised we have 2 public speaking sessions. If you're interested in speaking, there are sign-up sheets located on the table. You can speak at either or both of the sign-up of the speaking sessions. If you don't sign up, we won't acknowledge you for tonight. Good evening. My name is Leonard Silken. I'm the president of the Community Education Council for District 2 here in Manhattan, New York. It's currently 6:06, and I'm calling tonight's meeting. This is our March 2024 meeting to order. Reporting secretary to call the roll.
Good evening. Preet Boparai is absent. Allison Bowen.
Here.
Allison Bowen is here. Daniela Egoroff.
Here.
Daniela Egoroff is here. Gavin Healy.
Here.
Gavin Healy is here. Charles Love. Charles Love is not here. Mud Marin.
Here.
Mud Marin is here. Sonal Patel. Sonal Patel is not here. Jessica Savage.
Here.
Jessica Savage is here. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg.
Here.
Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg is here. Sabina Serenise.
Here.
Sabina Serenise is here. Leonard Silverman.
Here.
Leonard Silverman is here. And Craig Slutskin is here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all members of the public and the press to tonight's March 2024 Community Education Council meeting. Again, we will be having 2 public speaking sessions. I see some people arriving right now. If you are interested in speaking, please sign the sign-up sheet. You can speak in one or both of our speaking sessions. We have a number of items on tonight's agenda, some of which members of the public have certainly expressed a strong interest in. It's very important that we acknowledge the following. First, for tonight's meeting, we will be following Robert's Rules of Order. So, as the chair, I will be chairing this meeting, and I would ask that people wait until they are recognized by the chair before speaking. We have approximately 3 microphones, 1 for each table here. And it's very important that council members respect other council members and we try not to speak over each other if we are discussing the issues. For members of the public, the sound is not that great. Unfortunately, the acoustics in this room are not the best. So if you do speak tonight and you wish to be heard, try to keep the microphone as close to your mouth as possible without touching it. And again, we want to be respectful. We want to make sure that we acknowledge that there are differences in opinions here tonight. But anyone who does not respect the chair or respect the decorum of this meeting will be asked to leave. Well, I promise you that we will make sure that everybody who signed up to speak does get an opportunity to be heard. Right now, based on the number of speakers that we have signed up, I'm estimating that we will allocate at least 2 minutes per speaker, so you will get a chance to do that. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the presentation of the resolutions. Is there anyone here that would like to present resolution number 244, entitled Resolution Urging the New York City Department of Education to make basically Narcan available in all schools?
I'll do it. Thank you. And I'll try to be brief because I know we have a full agenda. So this resolution talks about making Maxalone, which is also more commonly known as Narcan, in all schools. This is now actually law in New York City. The city council passed this to have Narcan in all schools. And we think that Narcan has actually been delivered. It hasn't been confirmed, but our understanding is it actually is supposed to have been delivered to all schools. We feel that Narcan, I'm hearing there's no sound. Can you hear me at home? Okay, somebody's had to, okay, same microphone, but we'll figure it out. We'll try to figure it out. Okay, so Narcan, as some people may know, it's a crucial opiate overdose reversal medication that's used to reverse life-threatening effects of opioid overdoses. There should be, or will be at some point very soon, Narcan in all New York City public schools. That is actually the law as of the beginning of January. What this resolution asks for is to ensure that Narcan is readily available at all public schools. And also that there is appropriate training for staff. One of the things that we were concerned about is nurses at each school are trained to administer Narcan. But the issue is it's just a nurse. And in some schools, there's only one nurse. It could be a school of 300, it could be a school of 3,000. And if the nurse isn't there, the nurse goes to lunch, nobody else knows how to use it. Nobody else knows how to administer it. And with Narcan, it's something that has to be administered right away. It's not something that could wait an hour. So what we are asking for is that all schools have at least 2 people know how to administer it, if not more. We also ask for some education, and we also ask that the Office of Cannabis Management create additional resources to inform students that cannabis and marijuana may very well now be tainted with fentanyl. We're starting to see that, and we obviously want everything taken care of, and we want everybody to be safe. So this is the resolution. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Craig. The next item is a presentation of resolution number 245, entitled Resolution Urging the New York City Board of Elections to cease the use of public school buildings for early voting. I'm happy to introduce this resolution. I experienced this personally. As you know, New York City has a program in place for early voting. Unfortunately, many of those voting locations also happen to be public schools. And because of that, a number of public schools, particularly District 2, no longer have the use of their gym space or their cafeteria space while the voting is taking place. So this resolution addresses our concerns about that. We have in the past passed a similar resolution on this issue. Next item is resolution number 246, entitled Resolution Requesting School Safety Transparency. Is there anyone who would like to introduce this resolution?
So this resolution addresses the problem that parents will be making decisions about the middle school, and we only have access to the suspension numbers that unfortunately a lot of people in our community do not trust anymore the suspension rates. And so it's just really trying to get transparency in terms of the numbers of level 3, 4, and 5 incidents by middle school, so parents can make an informed decision about which school they are going to choose for their kids to go to middle school. You want to add anything, Allison?
Well, I'll add a little bit.
Okay.
Now, next item, is.
Sorry, can I just have one thing?
Sure.
And just make sure that the data is released before parents have to make their decisions.
Recording secretary, please note that, we have a request member who is here.
Hi.
The next item is a presentation of resolution number 247, which is entitled Resolution in Support of our two LGBTQ plus students and families. Is there anyone who would like to present this resolution?
Is it on?
Are you on? Yes, okay.
Keep it close.
It's the loudest I have it at.
Got it. Thank you. So we took, the resolution that was introduced last month after listening to comments made during last month's meeting. Had some additional collaboration, made some changes, and, wanted to reintroduce this now again. The point again is to show support for LGBTQ plus students and families. I'll be brief but repeat some pertinent information. We know that the LGBTQ they experience bullying and gender-based discrimination in school at significantly higher rates. We know that experiencing this is a strong risk factor for suicide, with a distressing 41% of LGBTQ young people aged 13 to 22 having seriously contemplated death by suicide, as reported by the Travel Project. You can see now that the resolve has changed somewhat to call for specific resources to those individuals who directly support these students, including guidance for counselors, optional support sessions for parents and guardians, and increased staffing for the Office of Safety and Youth Development LGBTQ plus programs. Again, the point of this resolution is to show that CECD2 supports our LGBTQ plus students and families and help bring additional resources to schools and help support the community.
During the.
Thank you, Jessica. Next item is a presentation of resolution number 248, entitled Resolution Calling for Comprehensive Review and Redrafting of NYCPS Guidelines on Gender with regard to the application and impact on female athletes participating in physical education, intramural and competitive public school athletic league, PSAL sports. Would any of the sponsors like to introduce this resolution?
I'm fairly certain that everyone on this committee and the vast majority of the people in this room have already read this resolution and are familiar with it. And that's why we have the people in the room. So I would just like to make a couple points as I start that for those of you, particularly on Zoom, who may not have read this, this is regarding the 2019 NYCDOE first ever guidelines on gender, which changed several policies. Most significantly, and the reason for this resolution is replacing the category of biological sex with gender identity in all areas, including public school athletic league sports teams and participation. I'm not going to go into any more of the background on this resolution, which I believe most of us have read, but I would like to highlight the resolution here that we are putting forward, which is requesting a committee is convened on the gender guidelines to review those guidelines, and importantly, to make sure that that committee is comprised of a wide variety of stakeholders, including athletes, parents, coaches, and the relevant medical professionals. And that that committee be authorized to propose amendments and changes based on the findings of that committee. Thank you.
For those of you who are here tonight, what we usually do is, not every meeting, but we have one tonight, we have program presentations. Next item on our agenda is a program presentation on fair student funding. So I'm going to ask If we get that presentation going, could you just also, when you do your presentation, just explain what fair student funding is for members of the public, so we know what we're talking about?
Mine's off, this is off.
Okay, let me see.
Is this one off?
Is that off?
Is this off?
Right now. I don't know if this is gonna reach.
There we go. Thank you for the tech support. We appreciate that very much. We'll make it through the rest of the meeting. Good evening, everyone, panel, CEC members, President Silverman. My name is Colin McGuire, and I am the superintendent of Community School District 2. We are here tonight to review a report that we do every single year that is in regard to our annual budget, not just our budget as a District 2 team, but we'll go into the whole of the budget as adopted by the Panel for Educational Policy. So the Panel for Educational Policy votes on the New York City Public Schools budget allocation formula following the school year, which is known as the Fair Student Funding Formula. In preparation for this event, we met with borough staff, and we are here tonight with two primary presenters who are going to be facilitating our FSF workshop this evening, or presentation this evening. Our Deputy Superintendent Kelly Shannon and one of our senior budget managers, Sunny Osro. And together they are going to present for us tonight. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to review the New York City Public Schools budget and allocation formula and review the fair student funding and weights for the fiscal year 2025. We will definitely go into what fair student funding is as a part of that, which aligns with the 2024-2025 school year. This presentation reflects our continued approach in how New York City Public Schools is conducting community engagement around our school budgets as it relates to the fair student funding formula. Our goal is to increase our transparency in ensuring that you, as a group of community stakeholders, are made aware of how schools are funded and made aware of the resources available to you to better understand your school budgets. Over the course of the past year, we have talked about many of the initiatives that we are taking on, both from a district level as well as from a school-based level, to help our students learn to become better readers, to help implement a new math program in our middle schools, and as well as to maintain a safe and supportive school environment for all students. And so you'll hear some broad strokes tonight about how that funding formula is applied, as well as some more specific information about what this looks like in District 2.
And Superintendent McGuire, I'm told this will be 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
We will see. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll do the best we can to move through it and answer everybody's questions, as well as get to all the information that we're going to be sharing. But with that, I will be turning it over to Deputy Shannon, who's going to provide an overview of this year's overall New York City schools budget, provide a detailed explanation of the fair student funding formula, and walk through additional information in regards to the budget in order to create transparency. At the end of the presentation, if you have questions, we are happy to answer those. And like I said, we have a good team here tonight to be able to answer questions and information. So with that, I will turn it over to Kelly Shannon, one of our deputies.
Good evening, everyone. Additionally, the intention of this session is to collect public comments on the formula for the upcoming school year. We ask that if you have specific feedback on the weights for fair student funding formula, that you please feel free to share that feedback with budget public comments at schools.nyc.gov. In addition, at the end of this presentation, our CEC will upload so that all of the links that are presented tonight are accessible to the public and represented the District 2 community. Our New York City Public Schools team will take public comments received at this email into consideration in the coming weeks. Where can I find information about my school's budget? One final note about the presentation, while I will be providing an overview of the overall New York City Public Schools budget and our district budget, I will not be reviewing individual school budgets. Those are accessible on our public website. This slideshow shows you the steps to find the school budget from our homepage. We encourage all of our families seeking more information to use these links to look at their individual child schools budget. Please note that our pre-K centers and charters do not have budget reports on the DOE website. Where does our funding come from? Now going to provide an overview of our overall budget and where our funding comes from. This data is based on the most recent budget included in the mayor's January plan. The total budget for the 23-24 school year is $39.3 billion, or about $31,000 per student in our system. New York City provides most of our funding. For the New York 23-24 school year, the city contributed $21 billion, 52% of our total budget. Most of our city funding comes from what we call city tax levy dollars. City tax levy dollars are drawn from local taxes, including property taxes, sales taxes, and personal income taxes. Every year, the mayor proposes the amount of city tax levy funding we get, and the city council must pass the budget into law before the new fiscal year begins on July 1. $14 billion, or 36%, comes from New York State. New York State is our second largest source of funding. Every year, the governor proposes the amount of state funding that we will get, mainly based on the number and types of students enrolled in our schools. And then the state legislature must pass the budget into law before the new fiscal year begins on May 1st. Funding generally comes from income and corporate taxes, as well as property and sales tax. Federal funding compromises a total of $4 billion, or 11% of funding for this school year. The federal government is our third largest source of funding. Every year, Congress proposes a budget and the president must sign the budget into law in advance of the new fiscal year, which begins on October 1st. The Every Student Succeeds Act provides the rules for allocating most of the federal funding we receive. How is New York City Public Schools budget spent? In the previous slide, we covered an overview where New York City Public Schools receive its funding from. And now we will shift into how that funding is spent in our schools and across our system. Within our budget, we have mandated costs that must be covered annually, including employee benefits, pension and debts, as well as state mandated payments to charter schools, non-public and contract schools. This pie chart represents the major costs. I'll provide a brief explanation of each section. Let's begin with early childhood, located towards the bottom right hand of the pie chart. We allocate $2 billion to support early childhood, i.e. birth to age 5 across the city. Second bucket of funds, employee benefits, pension, and debt. The $10.8 billion pays for healthcare and other employee benefits, pension payments for staff, and debt payments on loans for school construction and upgrades. Bucket 3, charters. We allocate 8%, $3 billion for charter schools as mandated by state law. 4, non-public and contract schools. Non-public and contract school payments cover schools and programs that educate New York City students that are not directly run by New York City DOE. The $2.6 billion includes students with disabilities attending specialized schools and supplemental services to students attending non-public schools. Next bucket, superintendent, field offices, and central offices combined. Comprises approximately 1.5% of the overall budget. Next bucket. The school operations section pays for non-instructional services that students receive. The $4.8 billion is used to pay for costs including free breakfast and lunch available to all students, bus routes, loan payments on new buildings, construction and renovation. This is similar to mortgage payments. The last bucket. The largest portion of our budget is allocated towards K-12 schools and instruction. We allocate $15.2 billion, or 39% of our overall budget annually, to support our schools, including general education teachers, guidance counselors, deans, health and school climate initiatives such as PE teachers, Respect for All Week, Climate Action Days, special education, after-school activities, summer school, and other operating expenses. This also includes funding for textbooks, computers, materials, and supplies. We're going to transition from a citywide view and look at budget and funding source breakdown for our district. In District 2, the 2023-24 school budget. This will not cover the breakdown by school. You can find that on the New York City Public Schools website by following the directions that we shared at the start of the session. As you can see, in District 2, we have $836 million budget across 50 pre-K through 12 schools serving approximately 22,400 students, including centers. This does not include District 75 since those programs are not funded through fair student funding. School budgets are comprised of a mix of fair student funding and other funding sources. Who decides how the money is spent at the school level? Once this funding is in place within school budgets, principals, as I used to be, are responsible for the funds allocated to schools and have a great deal of flexibility in how they spend the funding. These choices are made in partnership with their school leadership teams. As principals and school leadership teams create the school's comprehensive educational plan, they identify school-specific instructional needs and priorities that align with the school budget to this plan. Principals work with their SLTs to create the school's budget in alignment to the goals and instructional priorities outlined in the CEP. Deputy superintendents and superintendents supervise all principals in our district throughout this process and must approve all school budgets and their alignment to their school CEP. In addition, individual school CEP aligns to our district comprehensive educational plan. This year in particular, for anyone who has looked at our district comprehensive educational plan, two priorities were highlighted. Our first was our work in bringing illustrative math to all of our middle schools and scaling up the implementation of that work. And our second priority focused on continuing to deepen our work around foundational literacy, ensuring that there are researched and evidence-based phonics and phonemic awareness programs in pre-K through second grade. What is fair student funding? Fair student funding, or FSF, is the largest funding stream that we provide to schools. In fact, it accounts for nearly 2/3 of most K-12 New York City public school budgets. As discussed on the previous slide, the allocation of fair student funding provided to schools is based on the number of students enrolled at each school and the specific needs of those students. We make these calculations based on the fair student funding formula, which calculates how we distribute this overall bucket of money to schools. Within the formula, students with needs that require more support receive more funding in alignment with those needs. In many cases, schools also receive funding from other funding streams, including federal funding streams like Title I, Title III, IDEA, which is funding focused on special education, or other targeted allocations for specific initiatives. These buckets make up the remaining funding within the overall school budgets. Please note, the current school year 23-24 is the final year of the federal pandemic era funding. $2 billion of federal stimulus funds expire in the current year. New York City Public Schools are working with our partners at the city's Office of Management and Budget to address the cliff being caused by these expiring dollars. As a note, charter schools, 3K, pre-K, and District 75 programs are funded outside the fair student funding formula. Additionally, mandated IEP, individual education plan related services, including speech teachers, occupational therapists, and physical therapists, as well as one-to-one paraprofessionals, are also funded outside the FSF formula. Again, the money provided to schools from the fair student funding allocation provides principals with significant flexibility, working in partnership with their school leadership teams to utilize the funding to design instructional programs tailored to the needs of their students within their school community. Funding from the FSF allocation provides for each school basic instructional program, and classroom services. This funding can be used to pay for classroom teachers, including arts, PE, and cluster teachers at the elementary school level, as well as school leadership, school counselors, social workers, and administrative and pupil personnel staff. Additionally, the FSF allocation can pay for after-school programs, tutoring and intervention programs, as well as teacher absence coverages and classroom resources and materials. How does it work? We'll now use this opportunity to clarify some of what we've already discussed. Throughout this presentation, we've been talking about fair student funding and fair student funding formula. When we say fair student funding, we are talking about the money that is allocated to K-12 schools from this large bucket, not including pre-K centers or District 75 programs. This year, fair student funding is $7 billion. The fair student funding formula is the method by which we decide how to allocate funding to schools. This slide outlines the formula and how we use the formula to calculate the total amount of fair student funding that each school receives. I'm going to walk you through how we utilize the formula to determine how much fair student funding each school receives and how we determine that specific dollar amount. Off the top, each school receives a foundational amount which is provided to every school, regardless of the number of students that the school serves. This covers per school overhead costs such as the principal and school secretary. Then we calculate the remainder of the FSF funding by allocating a base amount for each student, which is called per capita, and then allocating additional funding based on each student's identified educational needs and instructional program. It is in this part of the formula that we will take into account the weights that we have been referring to throughout the presentation. We add funding to the formula for collective bargaining related costs, which is contractual pay increases for school staff. This ensures schools can afford to keep up with growing salary costs. Given the new set of collective bargaining agreements, we are looking at ways to update the formula for this coming year. On the next slide, we will dive more deeply into the weights that we utilize to determine specific dollar amounts that we allocate per student so that you have a clear understanding of what goes into this part of the formula. I also want to pause to reiterate that in this formula, we take the time to examine the individual needs of each student to determine funding allocations. We make these individualized calculations for each student, aligned to their individual and specific needs and educational program to determine how much funding would be provided to that school for each student. The 24-25 proposed fair student funding weights. This chart shows the proposed weights for next school year. That means if approved by the panel for educational policy, PEP, in April, these weights will be used to calculate the school's fair student funding allocation for the 24-25 school year. This slide displays the FSF weights for the current school year, 23-24, which are proposed to be maintained for 24-25. Here you can see the different types of weights that students can be eligible to receive based on their instructional needs or academic programs. Now, to dive more deep, to more deeply understand the weights that we use to calculate this last part of the formula from the previous slide, the number of students per FSF category and their weights. Each student's weighted need is determined by the FSF formula. We share different weights on this slide and how they're utilized. For 23-24, the base weight of 1 is equal to approximately $4,237 per capita. This per capita is annually adjusted to reflect changes to the citywide teacher average salary. The basic grade weight is allocated to schools for all students on their audited October 31st register and is calculated by considering instructional programming requirements by student, grade level with distinct weights for kindergarten through 5th grade, 6th through 8th, and then 9 through 12. Funding for academic intervention, AIS, is determined by students' academic performance when a student enters the school. using test scores from their prior year. For schools where students do not have incoming test scores, such as in the lower grades, such as before students begin taking tests, or if they do not have prior test scores, we provide funding based on the student's poverty level. Funding for special education is determined by the percentage of time students spend receiving special education services. For example, we have one weight for students receiving services less than 20% of their week. Another weight funding for students receiving part-time services up to 59% of their week. And a final weight for students receiving more than 60% of their time receiving special education support. Special education weights are also then broken out by student grade level with specific weighting value, again, determined by the cost of providing the instructional program. We also provide supplemental funding that supports students who have been declassified as needing special education. This funding supports students in their first year transitioning out of special education services to post-IEP transitional support rate. Funding for English language learners is allocated based on student grade level, reflecting mandated instructional services, including bilingual and E&L instructional programming, English as a new language. Additionally, we have weights for former Ls who have achieved proficiency within the past 2 years, indicated by using the state designated term commanded. We also provide funding for Ls with students with interrupted formal education. Students with this classification receive respective L weight in addition to their site weight. We also have another category of weights for portfolio high schools. These rates are provided to schools based on the number of students who are involved in academic programs within each high school. Career and technical weights have different tiers based on the type of career preparation program. Programs that require more resources such as nursing, agriculture, veterinary, aviation, technology, automotive, culinary, etc. require industry-specific equipment. Higher level of consumable supplies and materials, student internship requirements are integral to the program of study, highly specialized and ongoing industry training for teachers. We have higher weights to support that instructional program. There are also separate rates for students in special academic or specialized audition schools and for students attending transfer schools. The transfer school rate is broken out to 2 tiers based on students' age and credit accumulation. Transfer school students who are further behind in credits at the time of admission receive a higher rate. Only students attending high schools are eligible for these portfolio rates. Funding for students in temporary housing was introduced in the current school year, making a significant shift in how we allocate resources to our students, with a specific focus on supporting students who reside in temporary housing. This has had an impact for our asylum-seeking families who are living in temporary housing, providing additional resources to schools enrolling students in temporary housing. Funding for the concentration of needs rate provides additional funding to schools with high populations of students with significant needs. This rate was also introduced in the current school year. Research shows that schools that serve higher concentration of students with high needs require additional resources to provide robust education and appropriate resources to support their students. The concentration rate factors for the proportion of students who are in poverty, students who have disabilities, students with disabilities, students who are in temporary housing, students residing in foster care, English language learners, and students whose performance is below grade level as key indicators of concentration of need. The 24-25 proposed FSF weights are unchanged from the current school year. For 23-24, we added a new FSF weight to support students in temporary housing, and is proposed to continue in 24-25. Why this weight? Research shows that situations faced by students in temporary housing can create significant challenges to student success. How the weight works: weight of 0.12 times the FSF per capita for the number of students in temporary housing in the school in the prior year. Additionally, we are proposing to continue the weight established this school year to support schools with high percentages of student need, concentration weight. Why this weight? Having high concentration of student needs has a negative impact on student achievement. And how the weight works, schools are ranked based on the proportion of student needs, e.g. students with IEPs, English language learners, students living in poverty, students in temporary housing, and other weights. The highest average student need are divided into 3 categories: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Schools outside of the highest concentration receive no funding. Students attending schools in Tier 1 receive a weight of 0.404, Tier 2 0.08, and Tier 3 0.12. Concentration weight times the school's average need for the prior year times the register for the school year. How FSF weights work if per capita were $1. We just took a look at all of the weights that students would be eligible to receive with the Fair Student Funding Formula allocation. We also shared that as we are calculating that formula for each school, we take into account the instructional needs of each individual student within the school as we determine school's overall budget allocations. In this slide, we will take a look at how each student's calculation is determined. The different types of weights as indicated by color on the right side of the screen. In order to determine the weight for each student, we evaluate their eligibility weight based on data in university public school systems, so key information about our students. We are going to walk you through the process for how FSF funding will be allocated for 2 students, Ava and Miles, through the Fair Student Funding Formula. Ava and Miles are 2 students who attend a school in our district. Ava is a 2nd grader and Miles is a 6th grader. The orange section shows the grade weight that they first received. Because Ava is a 2nd grade student, they are entitled to the K-5 grade weight of 1.1 whole. Again shown on the left graph in orange. Since Miles is a 6th grader, he's entitled to the grade weight of 1.08. For a high school student, they would receive a weight of 1.03. The navy blue section shows the special education weight. Both students are students with disabilities requiring special education classroom instructional services. Special education teacher support service, special class, or integrated co-teaching, which is often referred to as ICT. Ava's individualized education plan, IEP, states that she has greater than 60% of instructional program to be spent in an ICT setting. Therefore, Ava is entitled to the full-time, more inclusive special education weight of 1.74, shown in the navy blue on the bottom. Miles' individual education plan requires less than 20% of the instructional program to be in an IEP setting. Therefore, Miles is entitled to less than 20% low intensity special education weight of 0.56, shown in the blue on the right. I'm just going to keep walking you through this. Both Ava and Miles are classified as English language learners, shown in yellow. Ava is an elementary school former multilingual learner who tested out of L status within the last 2 years. Because New York State requires 2 additional years of English as a new language service for all former Ls, Ava is entitled to the K-5 EML weight of 13. Miles is also a multilingual learner. Miles is enrolled in a bilingual program at his middle school. The school has appropriately coded Miles as enrolled in a bilingual program in New York City Public Schools scheduling system called STARS. As such, Miles is entitled to the 6-8 bilingual weight of 0.55. Both Ava and Miles are entitled to academic intervention services wage shown in red. Ava is a student in poverty, and therefore they are entitled to the FSF academic intervention wage 0.12 shown in red on the left. Miles is a student who entered school in 6th grade with 5th grade test scores that were below proficiency. As a result, he's entitled to the AIS rate of 0.35, shown in red on the right. Both Ava and Miles are students who live in temporary housing, shown in green. As such, they both receive student and temporary housing rate of 0.12. Both Ava and Miles attend schools with high concentration of students with needs, shown in Ava attends a tier 3 school. The highest concentration of need entitled to a rate of 0.12. Miles attends a school with lower concentration of need, which does not receive the weight. Concentration of needs is shown in pink, the pink bar at the top for Ava. When you add all the pieces together, Ava's allocation to Fair Student Funding Formula would total a weight of 3.23, while Miles' allocation would total 2.7. Because each weight of one is equal to $4,237, Ava's weight, 3.23, is equal to approximately $13,686. And while Miles' weight of 2.66 is equal to approximately $11,270 under Fair Student Funding Formula. I want to provide more information that is available online about Fair Student Funding and school budget. On this presentation, which we sent out, you will find the following online at New York City Public Schools under Info Hub and under Reports, Financial Data, and Reports. You can find detailed information about each and every school budget allocation in the form of School Allocation Memorandum, or SAMs. A summary of each school's total and Fair Student Funding budget, along with student and staff counts. A programmatic guide to Fair Student Funding, as well as how FSF allocation is calculated for each school. In addition, you can find the following online on each individual school webpage under Reports, Budget, and Finances. Detailed information of the school's budget used for different types of funding the school receives, as well as detailed information on how the principal is budgeting for the current year, including the number of staff positions and other planned spending. Our school budgeting timeline is as follows. In February and March, we are given initial budget estimates of city and state revenue. New York City Public School Superintendents present the CECs with the proposed Fair Student Funding rates for the coming school year. That's this presentation. In April, the panel for educational policy votes on the proposed Fair Student Funding rates for the coming school year. In late spring, New York City Public Schools will release budget allocations to schools. And in June, principals, along with their school leadership teams, propose budgets for the coming year. In July, myself, along with our superintendent and our team, and my partner, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Higgins, will review school budgets for the coming year. In September, the new school year begins. So improving budget transparency, new school budget at a glance web pages. It is a continued effort for the New York City Public School and for our district to provide as much transparency as how our dollars are being spent to support our students. In addition to the current web pages detailing each school's Galaxy allocation and budget summary, a new school budget at a glance brings together data on student enrollment, demographics, budget allocations, and use of funds. The new look also compares schools' demographic information to citywide averages. Under K-12 funding for this school, you can see the school's budget allocation rolled up into major funding categories. You can also see how each of these is a share of the school's budget. This school, FSF makes up approximately 74% of the budget. Under K-12 spending for this school, you can see the budget summary rolled up into spending categories. Again, classroom teachers, other salaries, employee benefits, and non-salaries, which are known as OTPS, other than personnel services, general supplies, materials, books, etc. What are the changes coming forward and what kind of feedback is being solicited? All public comments will be reviewed by New York City Public School teams. Public questions and comments related to the FSF formula will be posted on the Panel for Educational Policy website. Analysis and response of each relevant question and comment will be available for review on the FSF website in advance of the April 17th vote. Comments and questions may be directed to the following email address or phone number by April 16th. We'll provide the email address in the presentation, and the phone number is 212-374-6754. We thank you for your time and attention today. We thank you for questions that you will share and reaching out through the email address and phone. We want to hear from our families, from the community around these funding formulas as we go into final approval before the PEP vote. We appreciate your time and attention to a very long fiscal presentation and service of being able to provide transparency around how we allocate dollars to support all of our students in District 2 and across New York City public schools.
Any council members have any questions?
I have Hello? 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 One quick question and then. Hi, one quick question and one a little longer. I just want to confirm, you mentioned that the extra wage funding for students in temporary housing was only introduced this school year budget, is that true? Only this year? So before students in temporary housing didn't get any extra funding? Okay. And okay.
Prior funding.
Oh, so it was a different weight? So now it's 0.12 and what was before? Does anybody know? Okay, so it wasn't the formula, but it was a different number, a different weight number, is that true? You don't seem sure. Okay, okay. We can follow up by name. And then my bigger question is, so 4% of our budget for the district is federal stimulus money that we know is going away, right? And it's 6% for the entire city. Has there been any planning about how we're gonna deal with that 4% cut for next year?
Having recently been a principal, yes, there have been ongoing conversations. We're always planning not for just what's in front of us, but for what's coming down the road. And we've all been aware that this funding source at some point would not be available. So in conversations with our school leaders, we've been talking through what are the systems and structures that can maintain stability and that are sustainable. So however those extra dollars are being utilized, what ways can we continue to have that work impact the work we're doing in our schools? So it's not just about the person, but how did that work, with that maybe an additional resource happen? How did that impact programming? How did it impact the ways in which we support students, the ways in which we provide a multitude of resources? And so those are ongoing conversations, and they continue to happen as we go into the final part of this school year, where we'll be receiving, individual schools will receive their school budgets, and we think about their enrollment numbers and what increases they may have, because that's also happening, as well as any decreases that may be happening and planning for that. I'm also going to turn it over to Superintendent McGuire.
No, I don't have too much more to add to than that, but I will say that the majority of our the majority of our schools have experienced an increase in enrollment as compared to the previous year. We also have been utilizing and really thinking about how it is that we're making the best of the resources we have here at the district team. One of the resources that we have at the district team are these amazing people and professionals who are now working on behalf of our schools. And so they are going out. Last summer, they provided weeks of professional learning for our teachers and principals, and that's not something that was there before. Schools had to pay for that before. We're also making good use of thinking about how it is that we are folding some of our school-based initiatives into central initiatives, including NYC Reads, and utilizing all the resources there. So it is, I don't want to say that it's not going to be tough. There are going to be some tough decisions to be made. But it is, we've been beginning to have conversations, and we'll have even more specific ones as we get the numbers for our schools.
Do any other council members have any questions?
Back to the page where you have the weighted averages up by category, I believe it's page 11. Back a little further. Yeah, page 10. So when I look at this and I'm trying to synthesize this in a short period of time, can you correct me if I'm wrong, that there's no categories here for K-8 education that give any weight for advanced academics or our highest achievers? It seems to me these are all about academic intervention for children who are not performing well. Is there any weight given or any dollars given to support the highest achievers in our schools? And if it's not in this category, if there's no category here that supports that, is there any other funding mechanism outside of this that superintendent or deputy superintendent you can speak to about how we are supporting schools to support those students?
There's not an additional weight. These weights are thinking about the individual needs of our students and additional needs that help support ensuring that all students have access and opportunity to be able to meet grade level standards. So that's where these weights are concentrated.
But it doesn't mean that there aren't programs that are in schools and decisions that principals are making in order to allocate programs and resources for students who might be above grade level. Principals have funds that are not, when you receive the Fair Student Funding dollars, they're attached to each student. Principals and their SLTs have options around how it is that they might utilize those dollars to create different programs for kids. There are dollars that are also exist outside of the Fair Student Funding formulas, including dollars for special populations, gifted and talented students, students with disabilities, ENL learners. And so, but these are just the dollars in the formula that is used for student funding.
Thank you.
Let's pass that mic back. Do we have that mic?
I can be louder. That's fine. Oh, no.
They can't hear it on that.
Yeah. I was wondering along the lines of what Allison said, if there's any incentives for the schools in terms of funding when they perform above level, like when we have level grades that are school itself that are rated as 1, 2nd, 3rd, like what incentive are we giving for schools to reach to that level for all schools?
She wanted to know what makes me such an amazing superintendent.
That was it.
No, the question was, are there incentives that exist for schools that may exceed goals around achievement? Is that some of them? There are not currently incentives that are connected to student achievement in our schools.
I use this mic so everyone can hear. So my question, so first of all, I think that the fair student funding rates are not tied to performance. So there are students in temporary housing, students with disabilities who receive additional rates under the fair student funding formula. And so some of those students are performing at grade level and some of them aren't performing. It's nothing to do with performance. Some of them are gifted and some of them are high achievers. I want to ask, weren't the additional weights, for example, for when did those come from working group? And I know that last year, I think, before I joined this council, there was a resolution that this council passed to actually argue that the additional first student funding rates for students in temporary housing, students with disabilities, and English language learners actually resulted in overfunding of those three categories. So I just want to ask, do those come from the student funding working group? Yes.
How's that mic going? Sorry, we're dealing with some technical issues here. Get a lot of exercise, just passing. Do any other council members have any questions regarding? Okay. Next item on our agenda is the first public speakers session. So let me remind you, if you'd like to speak, there are 2 sign-up sheets, one for each public speaking session. If you don't sign up, we won't be able to recognize you here. So there's a sign-up sheet on each table. Is there anyone who hasn't signed up that wants to sign up for the first public speaking session that is here? Anyone? Okay. Have a council member, Sluskin, now call out the names of the people who signed up. We're going to limit the time to 2 minutes per person. There is a hard to see, but is there?
From there, they should see it.
Okay. So I'm going to use this microphone to pass the microphone right here. This is the one that works, so let's use this one.
I think it's a balancing thing. I'll scream it out.
Let's scream it out.
Okay, the first person is Jared Danker.
Hello, council.
Am I not? My name is Jared Danker, and I am a gay man.
Sorry, Jared, wait a second. Let's just wait till. Let us resolve the sound issue. We'll get you a full 2 minutes, I promise.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Jared Danker, and I'm a gay man, a New York City DOE employee, but I'm here because I'm also a District 2 parent. And I'm asking council to vote yes on Resolution 247 and no on Resolution 243. Consider myself lucky because my kid gets to be a part of something that I never had. A school system that values, protects, and affirms LGBTQ+ students and their families. I reject the Resolution 248's harmful premise that trans girls have an unfair biological advantage that justifies their exclusion from participating in team sports with other girls. Kids walk onto the sports field with all sorts of biological and economic advantages. Some kids are born taller, faster, or more coordinated, but we don't consider that unfair. Some kids are born into families with financial resources that give them significant advantages, but we don't look to exclude them. I hope that the council understands that whatever this resolution's intention is, the primary impact would be to marginalize, frighten, and discriminate against a group of students who need our affirmation and support. This vote represents a message to our children from the parents of District 2. please send the LGBTQ+ youth of New York City the message that we, their parents, want them to be included, and that we believe they belong in New York City public schools. Vote yes on Resolution 247 and vote no on Resolution 248. Thank you.
Chase Strangio.
Thank you so much. My name is Chase Strangio. I am a District 2 parent. I am also a civil rights and constitutional litigator at the ACLU, where I've spent the last 11 years litigating cases against anti-trans laws and policies across the country. I was heartbroken when I learned as a District 2 parent about Resolution 248, and I'm here to urge you to vote against it and to vote for Resolution 247. As a trans person myself, as a parent, and as a civil rights lawyer, I have seen and am confronted daily with the consequences and painful impact of discriminatory actions like what Resolution 248 represents. As a parent, I'm frankly disappointed that adults in positions of power are capitalizing on a lack of understanding to try to push debates and policies rooted in discrimination. I have testified in legislative bodies across the country. I have litigated against anti-trans laws, including laws that restrict participation in sports in state and federal courts from Idaho to Tennessee to Arkansas to Texas and Maine. I have seen youth and their parents and families pushed out of the states and homes that they love because of discrimination. I have seen young people die by suicide because of the relentless bullying of their peers, rubber stamped by the government officials who are supposed to protect and represent them. And so I will not sit idly by and see the same misinformed efforts pushed in my own school district. I will not let New York City, the birthplace and home of some of the most important and powerful trans people in history, be yet another testing ground for rhetoric that expels my community from measures like Resolution 248 send the message to trans young people in New York City that they are not welcome in our schools and communities. To the trans students in District 2 and across the city, I say to you that we will fight for you. There are a few of us here today, but there are thousands of us that have your back. And to the members of this council, these guidelines that 248 is aimed at are mandated by state and federal law.
Thank you.
So this resolution does nothing but to target trans young people and to abdicate your responsibility to
Thank you.
parents who
Time.
represent. Thank you very much. Please vote against 248.
Thank you. Eric Botcher. Eric. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't hear. I can't say. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Eric Botcher. I'm the city council member. In this kitchen. I'm here to segment North State Center of Rockland.
Oh, Eric, there's the online people want you to talk closer to the mic. If you can do the radio, you can pull it out if you want.
LGBTQ elected officials representing and diverse districts in Manhattan covered by community. Considering a resolution targeting transgender utterly shocking that such a regressive and harmful resolution is in school district in the middle of district covering the neighborhood.
Eric, I'm sorry. Oh, you'll get your time. I apologize. They're saying you have to speak closer to the mic. Take it off. They can't hear you at home. Thank you. You'll get your time back. That's better. Yeah. I want to make sure they can hear you.
It is utterly shocking that such a regressive and harmful resolution is being proposed in the school district that covers the middle of Manhattan including the neighborhoods of Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea, and Greenwich Village, the birthplace of the modern LGBTQ civil rights movement, and neighborhoods that are home to the largest LGBTQ communities in the United States. As dictated by our human rights laws, transgender individuals, including transgender girls, have the same rights and opportunities as every other New Yorker. Denying them the ability to participate in sports aligned with their gender identity is not only wrong, it's flatly illegal under New York City human rights law and the New York State Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act. This resolution is based on the false premise that the gender identity policy negatively impacts female athletes and stems from a misguided notion that the inclusion of transgender students diminishes the experience of other student athletes. In addition, this resolution not only goes against the principles of fairness and inclusion, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes and bias against the population that is already subject to vicious discrimination and harassment. Discriminating against transgender students not only harms the targeted individuals, it also negatively impacts the entire school community. Foster a hostile environment that can lead to increased bullying, harassment, violence, creating an unsafe atmosphere for all students. Additionally, discrimination undermines inclusivity, tolerance, respect, essential values for a healthy and supportive learning environment for all students. We stand firmly against all attempts to undermine the rights and dignity of transgender individuals and call on CEC District 2 to reject this resolution. Thank goodness for the leadership that we have at the Department of Education, because I know that they will uphold the current inclusive gender guidelines and ensure that all students have the opportunity to participate in sports in a safe and supportive environment, regardless of their gender identity. Discrimination has no place in our schools, our city, and our state, and we're proud that New York is a legal safe haven for transgender young people and their families. We will not stand idly by while students are threatened and victimized by the same people who are supposed to be protecting them. For to not be concerning itself with this issue, our trans students are counting on you to protect them, not persecute them.
Alana Daniels. Ms. Daniels, if you could speak again into the mic, just like Eric did.
Got it, I'll try my best. Does that work? Can all use my teacher voice? Good evening, everyone. My name is Elena Daniels. I'm a white, queer, neurodivergent, non-binary trans woman and teacher. I've been a teacher at New York City middle and high schools for 12 years, 7 of them at schools located in District 2. I've taught science, sex education, robotics, algebra, engineering, activism, international baccalaureate biology, and then a lunch lady. I've also written a trans women's history curriculum for the Museum of the City of New York and the City of New York. I also co-founded the NYC Trans Educator Network, and we contributed to the formation and implementation of the guidelines to support transgender and gender transitive students that are being deliberately attacked here tonight. Currently, I'm the co-founder and executive director of Transformative Schools. We're a team of trans and queer teachers starting a trans school right here in District 2. We launched as an after school for students ages 9 to 15 this past fall. Our school is located on the historic Webster Street, in the location where our ancestors, the majority of whom were Black and brown, started the modern movement for our collective queer liberation. I'm also the proud holder of a bachelor's degree in history from Amherst College and a master's degree in biology from Smith College. I begin my testimony to this council, which is presumably 100% cisgender, by naming my areas of expertise and my extensive experience in schools. Because I have long learned that as a trans person, as a woman, and as a teacher, both my professional and personal expertise are often dismissed, overlooked, or perceived to be uninformed or biased. Trans kids, trans teachers, and trans people are under attack. There's no easier or gentler way to say it. We're under attack nationwide. We're under attack here in New York State. We're under attack in New York City, and we're under attack in this very room here tonight. There's no easier or gentler way to say it. And I'm running out of time because trans folks need more of a chance to say something, so I'll be finishing the rest of mine in the second half. Thank you.
Megan Madison.
Can someone lower the mic for Megan, maybe tilt it down? Thanks, Gavin. And if you could tilt it, maybe tilt it towards you a little more.
How's that?
Yeah.
All those high school musicals. I am not a parent, but you don't have to be a parent to be someone who matters in the lives of children. And you don't have to be a parent to know your responsibility to our city's children. I'm here today as the chair of the board of Transformative Schools and the author of a book that some of you think should be banned. I only have 2 minutes, so I want to focus my remarks on the most important issue today, which is passing Resolution 247. I was here last month, and I want to say thank you to Jessica, Gavin, Sarah, and Sonal, the sponsors of the resolution. Thank you for your leadership. And I also want to say thank you to Leonard. Your yes vote gave me hope. Allison, shame on you. Craig, thank you for becoming a co-sponsor. The revised resolution is even stronger than before. And unfortunately, you're not the only one who doesn't know about existing policy in New York City and New York State that establishes and advances the rights of trans and LGBTQ+ kids, and guidelines for schools and teachers about how they must create affirming educational environments for all students. We hope you will join us in getting the word out. Gavin, thank you for your offer. Our Skin is the best book currently available, and it should be in every school in D2. Thank you for playing your part in making sure that happens. I hope that your continued wholehearted support of First Conversations will send a message to anyone trying to ban books or critical race theory or social emotional learning from schools. We need support like yours, and we need much more. I really look forward to celebrating when this resolution is passed, tonight or in the future. We have a lot of work to do, and it's good to celebrate every little step. I believe it is our sacred responsibility to build a beloved community right here on Lenape land where we are right now, with care, not cops. I believe that each and every one of our children has a right to feel safe at home, at school, and in their community. Thank you for passing Resolution 247 today.
The next one is Janine Kiley.
Janine, again, if you would speak into the mic.
Good evening. My name is Janine Kiley. I am a former District 2 parent. I have 2 boys who are in high school and who play sports their whole lives. So I'm very familiar with youth sports in the city. And I'm also Democratic District Leader downtown. And I'm appalled that this resolution, I'm here to oppose Resolution 248 and in support of Resolution 247. And I'm appalled that people need to show up here and even focus on these issues because there's so many more important issues within our schools. The budget hearing at City Hall, a friend of mine testified at 10:30 p.m. She was the first online person to testify. Why aren't we focused on the budget issues? And I do want to just talk up some numbers and some feelings. Remember what it was like to be in middle school, how awkward you felt. It may be like the queen bee or whatever the case may be, but most kids really struggle in middle school and in high school. It's hard to be different. And you're loved by your parents and your family. And then you go to school and somebody teases you or bullies you. And this kind of resolution, number 248, will continue to discriminate and marginalize students who are already in a difficult situation of being othered and teased or whatever the case may be at school. And the fact that it's even written shows a lack of compassion by the adults on this board who support that. I did look up some data. According to the CDC study, 1.8% of high school students are trans. That may change. That was a couple years ago. And 1% of high school athletes are trans. Really small numbers. Meanwhile, the New York Public
NYPLI, looked at virtually no city schools comply with state laws for physical education, and students of color are disproportionately impacted by the PE and access to PSAL teams, which is why there was a settlement in 2022, basically to increase PSLA sports, particularly for Black and for students of color. And by the way, 85% of New York City students are students of color, 15% are white. So again, we're focused on the wrong thing here. Our children need access to fitness and sports, and it's time to focus on the needs of our children and not on the political needs of the adults in this room. Thank you.
Linda Quarles.
Gavin, could you lower the mic?
She can do it.
Hi, my name is Linda Cross. All of the resolutions. I specifically did want to comment on two of you. My reading of this is not about making any changes to the regulations, but to convene a group to evaluate the regulation which was introduced in 2019 without the type of review that this particular resolution is proposing. So as a parent of female athletes, I am aware, as I know we all are, that there is actually not a widespread consensus, either nationally or globally, on the benefit or harm of these types of changes to female athletes, changing the definition of female participation in sport. While it is clear that there are rapidly changing regulations by school district, state, countries, as well as even sport by sport, there are variabilities with regard to rules and regulations of how participation in women's sport is defined. Every day, it's either a state or country or sport are changing their rules and regulations. So I don't think this is like a settled matter. Even in world governing bodies, Olympic governing bodies, professional sports leagues, NCAA do not currently have unanimity on how to approach this issue. Now that this regulation has been in place for 5 years, I'm sure we've learned much about how this is impacting sport in our schools. It gives us an opportunity to look back and understand if the regulation is meeting its original intent and that it's not sacrificing fairness or safety for girls. I believe this regulation helps in 3 specific areas. Number one, first and foremost, and most importantly, ensuring health and safety in sport for our female athletes. In recent months, it has become clear that in particular in some team sports, there are considerable physical safety concerns. We should be investigated thoroughly to ensure we are never putting our female athletes at undue risk. Second, fairness. Since we know our kids are competing with non-New Yorkers and even non-Americans in high school and college and general competitive athletic opportunities, that our girls are not at a disadvantage when competing for
You can wrap up.
achievement scholarship.
Thank you.
Finally, to ensure that NYCPS and PSL are protected legally, to ensure that they are adhering to both the letter and spirit of Title IX, not putting our school system at risk of litigation or loss of funding.
Thank you.
Support this regulation. Thank you for being for it.
Thank you. Michael DeShields.
My name is Michael DeShields. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a theater teacher in the West Village. And some of you heard me speak in December when I reminded you how I'm alive because of the support of community. I'm alive because of the support of community, not because people in my community are shooting me down. This resolution 248 is shooting people down. Resolutions in the past have tried to shoot people down. Especially coming up, what is it? Today's the 19th, 20th, in 11 days. Transgender Day of Visibility. Kelly, you have the Gold Award, right? Did you put that yet? Because that's important. I just want to remind everybody on this CDC, Chancellor's Regulation A832 states you cannot be bullied, harassed, or discriminated against in public schools for any reason, including your gender, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. So please stop these bullying resolutions.
Gavin, can you get the mic back?
I have a feeling you're only one of the outputs working at the time. That's probably the issue.
No, if I can get the mic. There's no more speakers, yeah. Did anyone, but before he takes that back, anyone who wants to speak first public speaking session that hasn't signed up yet? So you already went, so you can go again during the second public speaking session. But thank you. I'd like to thank you to all the speakers who came here tonight. Just for those of you who are watching this via Zoom, again, the way that our bylaws are written, only people who are here in person are allowed. Next item on the agenda is the report of the president. So first, I want to just do a little bit of housekeeping. I would just ask Councilmember Swanskin to just mark Councilmember Patel excused.
Yep.
Right. Next thing is, as many of you know, we had our Chancellor Town Hall was previously scheduled, but due to the massive snowfall of that evening, which never occurred, that our Town Hall was canceled, or I should say adjourned. Right now, for those of you who are interested, we are looking at May 2nd as the date. We were thinking of April 9th, but that turns out to be the reason when people are celebrating that. So right now, mark your calendars, please. May 2nd is the date. For those of you who are new to Community Education Council District 2, I would ask you to take a moment after this meeting, or maybe during the meeting, whenever you have some time, take a look at our website, look at the resolutions that we've passed so far this term. You'll see that we've passed resolutions requesting geographic priority for District 2 students. We have heard the 1,000 plus parents that have reached out to us on that issue. That resolution, we are going to do our best to continue fighting for geographic priority for District 2 students. We also passed a resolution our last term in support of mayoral control. That is something that the majority of our council strongly believes in. And I think that is something that we should advocate for. And if you look down, you'll see, if you go through the list of resolutions that we passed, the resolutions tend to be centered around two different things. Either we're asking for more information, or you're advocating for a specific position. And I think it's important that all of the resolutions, if you look, the one thing that almost all of our resolutions have in common is that we are seeking more parental involvement in the decision-making that is done behind the scenes at the Department of Education. While I will comment specifically during our debate or discussion of the resolutions, I would just remind or just draw parents' attention to the fact that, again, one of the things that I think every member of this council strives for is greater parent engagement, greater parent involvement, and a partnership with the DOE specifically on issues that are involving our children, whether it's a social issue, whether it's an academic issue. And I think that if we're willing to keep an open mind, that is the reason behind the resolutions that we have here tonight, including resolution number 240. So I'm going to turn over the rest of my time to our Superintendent McGuire, for his report. I want to thank him because for those of you who don't know, we have a fantastic district here. Superintendent McGuire is dealing with a lot of tough issues that he can tell you about, but we want to continue to maintain a wonderful tradition. I also want to thank Deputy Superintendent Shannon and Deputy Superintendent Higgins as well. Them out because they are part of the District 2 team that we have. Those of you who are also doing this meeting, I believe Kelly was that we have 22,000 students right now in District 2. More, okay, it's more, it's increasing. We do have an influx of migrant students, but 22,000+ students at 48 public schools in Manhattan. And that's something we're very proud of, and we're going to continue to work with you as our team to do the best thing that we can to make sure that our kids are provided with the best education. But at the center of that, I truly believe that our mission here as a community education council is to make sure that parents are heard, regardless of what those positions are, and to make sure that we're part of the process. Now I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, President Silverman, and I will keep the report tonight short.
And by the way,
from our district team.
Are you going to promise to get us more funding for better microphones? Because that's what we could use that as well.
So we'll collaborate with the tech guy. I do just want to offer a couple of different things. As many of you have commented, one of the things that we try to do as a district team is keep our students at the center. And that means ensuring a safe and healthy environment for all of our students. That means serving and supporting them with their academic progress, regardless of where it is that they came in as student learners. And we feel very proud of that work. That is what is at the core, and we look to keep our eyes on that goal. And to that end, today I had a very unique experience of being able to attend both an elementary school meeting of all of our elementary school principals downtown, in which we were working together on the NYC Reads initiative. And we heard from 4 schools that were piloting our new K-5 literacy curriculum. What was fantastic about today was that we had the chance to welcome in 8 to 10 different teachers who have been implementing this curriculum, to hear from them about the challenges and benefits they're seeing from their students. And so that was really fantastic. I want to thank Principal Nico Victorino of PS 150, who has just been doing a fantastic job of hosting us and providing a beautiful environment for us to continue to do that learning. That we maintain at our core is a real belief in continuous learning. The afternoon, I zoomed up to Wagner Middle School, MS 167 on the Upper East Side, and had the chance to visit our 8th grade teachers who are implementing both Algebra and Math 8 alongside our new illustrative mathematics curriculum. Again, our district team members have been helping to support this work by facilitating workshops for all of our teachers, but the most powerful thing here was that we listened to students, we listened to teachers, and we got to see the evidence of all of their hard work. So as I've talked about before during the council meetings, our learning collaboratives are something that we have a lot of pride in, and I think are what continues to make our district. You mentioned Deputy Higgins. Deputy Superintendent Higgins right now is downtown at the Bear Weston complex at the PEP meeting, Education Policy meeting. One of our schools there is proposed to be merged. The City Knoll Middle School, which began 11 years ago and has been in several different locations in that short time that they've been around, has been doing an excellent job of serving and supporting both our students and families who are seeking asylum in our country. The City Knoll Middle School and PS 111, with which it is housed, both of them have expanded. The student populations have grown, and the co-location, the temporary co-location, has expired. And so we worked with our district planning team to try to think about what it is that we could do to really serve and support students who are attending City Knoll Middle School currently and who will be attending City Knoll Middle School in the future. And we had the opportunity to put forth a proposal to merge them with the Facing History High School to create a 6th through 12th grade school. We have many examples of very successful 6th through 12th grade schools here in New York City. And we are hopeful that this is going to be another one. So Deputy Higgins was at the Bear Weston complex this evening speaking on behalf of the district. Since he's not here, I'll give a quick little update in regards to our Summer Rising program. The application for Summer Rising remains open through March 25th. Families can apply for Summer Rising on the Students My School account. Our summarizing sites for the coming summer are PS6, 75 Morton, Wagner Middle School, PS 111, PS 124, PSIS 126, IS 131, PS 150, and PSIS 217. So we are looking forward to hosting probably around 3,000 students again this summer. And we see no reason to believe that this isn't going to be a very successful program in our district. I do want to just add a quick little comment that we have worked as a council and superintendent team, sometimes in moments of agreement and sometimes in moments of disagreement. And we always value the input of and the city and the council members at this time. We always seek to place our students at the very top of the priorities that we have. But as a district team, as a city team, we believe that all students have the right to both their gender identity, their gender expression, and that they have the right and respect to express that in our schools. So we look forward to continue for our students in athletics and in other parts of our work here as the New York City Public Schools. And with that,
Allison?
You want to just repeat her question? It'll be easier.
Well, sorry.
Last meeting, a letter to be sent to Chancellor Banks asking him to meet with us and with you regarding the parents' concerns about high school admissions and giving teacher priority. Have you heard from Chancellor Banks in response to that letter, or had a dialogue with him about setting up a meeting?
We do not currently have a meeting scheduled, but this has been a conversation that has been had both with folks who are at our central enrollment team and in the chancellor's office.
Kelly, could you just repeat?
I'm sorry. There was a.
It was a long question.
It's okay. There was a question about at the last meeting. There was a letter that was provided in regard to interest or requests amongst families to meet with both my high school counterparts and with the chancellor to talk about District 2 priority schools. Okay, you want me to do that? So I have, again, we have been in several different meetings, both with my high school counterpart, superintendents who oversee high schools, members of the enrollment team, as well as members of the chancellor's office. We did have one meeting last week with some representatives of District 2 who provided some great data and information in regard to District 2 priority. We have another meeting that is coming up, and I've been in constant collaboration with our high school superintendent. Not currently have a meeting on the books scheduled yet in regard to District 2 priority, but we will lift that up again to the chancellor's office and work again with our enrollment.
Will you make a commitment to this council to try and get that scheduled prior to our next CEC meeting?
I will make a commitment to, again, yes, speaking with folks in the chancellor's office about this request, as well as folks in our enrollment office. I can't guarantee that we will have a meeting by the next time that we get together for a CEC meeting, but I certainly will keep the dialogue.
Any other questions of Superintendent, Councilmember Healy?
My question is,
Can't win, just do it from there.
My question is just, has the chancellor or anyone else on his team communicated regarding resolution 248 and support for it?
I have not spoken with Chancellor Banks directly about resolution 248. I will say that there was communication in the lead up to this meeting with our central office. Yes.
You have a follow-up? Gavin, you have a follow-up about, why don't you ask him what was discussed?
I mean, whenever a topic comes up that might be one that wants attention in both our district and there's a large team that provides input, supports, and yeah, so it's a variety of folks. I know that people are solution. And,
Any other questions for Superintendent McGuire? Okay, if you pass the mic back. Thank you. Gavin, could you unhook us? Because I think we're. Yep. And we're just asking for a small portion of that fair student funding for technology. We can do that, we may. The next item on our agenda is the report of committees. Do any members wish to make any committee?
Knock it out.
I just wanted to report that we had our first SEL climate committee meeting at the end of February. We had individuals from LGBT regarding supports for this community, and it was, I think, for our first committee meeting, pretty well attended. They offered a lot of really great information, and I look forward to attempting to host a second committee meeting sometime in the near future.
Before we pass the mic back, anybody on that side, any committee reports? All right. Thanks. So for members of the public, we've reached the point where we're going to have a discussion of the resolution. So there are a number of resolutions on tap for tonight. And the way it usually works is we will discuss one resolution at a time, and council members can go back and forth and question each other. Good news is tonight, I guess, maybe it's a good thing, is we only have one working microphone. So I don't anticipate the council members will be screaming or talking over other council members as we have had. Let's keep it civil. I understand everyone's passionate about this topic. I know we're all here because we're voting resolutions in schools, but let's just keep it all civil and respectful. So with that said, resolution number 244, discussion on the resolution urging the New York City Department of Education to make, I can't pronounce it.
Narcan.
Narcan available in all schools. Would the sponsor or anyone like to discuss this resolution?
Yeah. Thanks, and I'll be brief because I already spoke about it. We all know there's an opioid crisis. It's gotten progressively worse. We now see it's in cannabis. I think this is very important. I think that we need to have Narcan in every school. It should be already. We think they are, but if it's not, it will be soon. But I think it's also very important that we have appropriate education about it, and that more than just one person in the building knows how to administer it. If the nurse is out that day absent, there should be a substitute nurse, so that would be covered. However, in a school of 3,000, the nurse may not be able to get there quickly, or may be doing attending to other matters. Or if the nurse goes out to lunch, time is of the essence here. So I think I like to think this is a no-brainer. I think this is very important to protect our kids. We've seen a few deaths, sadly and unfortunately, over the past year in schools. So I think I hope that we all support this. Thank you.
I just want to comment on this too. I think it's a really sad commentary on society that we need this resolution, but I do know parents who have actually now keeping Narcan in their homes at their own expense just for the possibility of an accidental ingestion of fentanyl, which is the real worry here. And we've seen that, we've seen daycare centers, those look just like anything else. And it's a really sad commentary by a board council member Soskin for bringing this resolution. I don't think this is controversial. Who else like to speak on this resolution? Next, resolution number 245, resolution urging the New York City Board of Elections to cease the use of public school buildings for early voting. Would anyone like to speak on this resolution?
Thank you. And we've received a significant number of emails with this concern. We have at least 5 that we know of early voting sites in our district, two of which are schools within CEC2, Wagner and Lab Middle. And it's a shame because early voting, I mean, I think we all, or hopefully we all support that, and we want as many people to vote as possible. However, early voting sites in these schools really create havoc. It's hard for principals to plan, and I think, and my understanding is that Lab, they do it in the cafeteria. So for a month, the kids are eating in the auditorium, which is not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the custodial staff who has to clean up. It's just so many complications. There is potentially security issues because you might have people walking through the school to get to the voting sites within the school. At Wagner, I think it's the gymnasium where they do it. So you lose the gymnasium for a month. That has ramifications, not just for students in the school, in the gymnasium, but there are after school programs. I believe there are weekend programs as well in the school that get lost. There are many other sites that the city could find, that a board of elections can find. We have a lot of vacant storefronts. The city can rent those. Community centers, places of worship, that there's plenty of room. I just think that there's no reason why we should lose 30 days at least, or maybe more or less, in our schools for this. Thank you.
Yeah, this is another example of this Community Education Council passing a resolution in the past and nothing comes of it, unfortunately, because the Department of Education refuses to listen or to acknowledge the concerns of parents at those schools. And as Frank pointed out, we have safety concerns. I personally heard from parents at different schools that there were strangers walking around, and that's to be expected when you have people being admitted to the school for purposes of voting. I understand the issue here, but we have to balance our accessibility for voting with the security of our children. I don't think this is controversial. I hope that this resolution will also pass. Would else like to comment on this? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I don't have that much to say. I very much want to be able to vote yes for this. It sounds like a no-brainer. I just want to point out that, as you alluded to, I think, I'm always very cautious when it comes to changing voting sites, and making sure that there is accessibility and that everybody who needs to be able to and wants to be able to come out and vote is able to do so. I saw some, these general examples in here. I'm curious as to, and if anybody has any additional information that they can share with respect to actual locations, or it's not like I disagree with this idea. It's just it with me on this.
Yeah, I'll go first.
I support this resolution. I understand what you're saying about changing sites, but at the same time, our kids are losing sport time, right? It's a whole month, 30 days of potential losing time. That's the only time in their day that they get to get their wiggles out, they get to actually move around. So that's something we need to be mindful of. What about museums? We're talking about weekdays, right? Where weekdays, everyone's at work, perhaps museums are located all throughout New York City, and I feel that those would be wonderful. That's where we did vaccination sites. They have huge spaces allotted to such gathering. I think those would be well used for now that those are no longer vaccination sites. They can be used for early warning.
Yeah, and thank you for the comment, Jessica. Accessibility is obviously very important. And I don't think anybody's asking for a last minute change. I think you understand that as well. We obviously have to plan this out. We thought about it. We did not put in suggested locations in here because that's not our job, right? Our job is to identify the problem and put it on the Board of Elections lap. I am not an election lawyer, so I don't want to say what, but I think, and I would imagine that there are probably rules about accessibility, because I don't think that the Board of Elections can put in a site, I don't know this, put in a site that people can't get to. If they would, that's a whole separate issue that the city has to deal with. But you're 100% right, it has to be accessible locations. And storefronts is one example. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you next to me, there was a museum that closed down next to my apartment that definitely had the same amount of room as Lab Middle, which is my poll site. So, I mean, Lab Middle is more spread out, but it would serve the same purpose. But it could be any place. As she said, museums, places of worship. There were definitely community centers around. But my thought was, and I think the co-sponsors' thought was, that put this on the Board of Elections. That's not, we are not going to go around and start looking at places because there are other concerns, rent, security, that we don't have the expertise to decide on.
We asked for specific examples. My voting site is at Wagner. Kelly, how many students do we have at Wagner? 1,100. Is that the largest middle school in our district? Yeah. So it is the largest middle school in our district. Wagner has an outdoor space, a yard. It also has this very large gymnasium. We've been to the early voting. I participated in that. I can tell you that the hours run almost, it's a lot of hours in a day, and it might be 1 or 2 people per hour that literally go into this huge site. So certainly the spaces can be narrowed down, tailored a little, but I think it's really not fair, particularly if the weather is not good, we can't utilize that outdoor space. When you have these kids, and I believe in the other school might be the cafeteria, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's important again that we provide our kids with those opportunities like you mentioned to legs. I think it's important. I get what you're saying, and it's balancing, and everything we do here is really balancing that. But we understand that, and I still hope you find there's benefit in supporting this. Anyone else like to comment on this? Okay. The next resolution is resolution number 246, resolution requesting school safety transparency.
It's pretty straightforward. It's a one-page resolution. As I mentioned, there are a lot of concerns with fifth grader parents who are choosing now middle school for their kids, and they want to know how safe the schools are. And again, the suspension numbers, I think there's a lot of distrust around the suspension number because of the GOE policy of trying to reduce, in some ways artificially, the suspension numbers. And so we really need level 3, 4, and 5 incidents by school so parents can make an informed decision. That's all.
Thank you. I'd like to give some more statistics around this based on what Daniela said, and I just went through the process for my 5th grader who is waiting to see where she's going to end up in middle school next year. So I'm very familiar with this firsthand, and also from all the other parents I talked to at my school and other schools. And when you look at what the resources are to find out about safety data as you're ranking schools on your application, you have 2 sites, myschools.nyc, and you have the school quality guide from New York City. And those 2 just give survey data from students at the school. And they don't give any empirical data as to the actual incidents that are happening at the school, but rather just the perception of incidents. And I found this to be particularly troubling when you look at the information on the My School site, which essentially has survey data that says how many students, quote, feel safe in the hallways, bathrooms, locker room, and cafeteria. Now, we have 4 zone middle schools here. And I'm going to read you the statistics on these. Baruch, 81% feel safe. Wagner, 63% feel safe. Morton Street, 56% feel safe. And Sun Yat-sen, 81% feel safe. Now, my zoned middle school for my children is Morton Street, which means almost half of the children feel unsafe always there. How can I choose to send my daughter there without more information? And then look at Wagner, 63%. Is Wagner really that similar to Morton Street? Or is it more similar to Brew? Those are statistically significant differences between those schools with no data to back them up. And in fact, when I went to a tour at Wagner, I asked the administration specifically about this 63% number. Not only did they tell me they didn't know that that existed, they couldn't tell me why. So we need real data when we're going to make decisions about middle school. And there's a complicating layer here. And if you look at the schools that people want to go to, where you have to get top 5, top 10% lottery number to get into, Clinton, Eastside Middle, Salk, Lab, 91% of students. Eastside Middle, 96%. Salk, 91, Lab, 91. My daughter has 0 shot of getting into any of those schools with her lottery number. So what do? Do I go to my default Morton Street zone school with 56% safety rating? Maybe, if I knew it wasn't all that bad, but I have nothing else to judge this on. And what we've done this year is we put all of the advanced academic seats in these schools with dubious safety ratings. So you said to me, and you said to these other parents of high-performing students, yes, we're going to give you a pathway to advanced academics, but you're going to have to go to Morton Street. Or you're going to have to go to Wagner. Maybe it's not that bad, but I don't know that because I don't have any empirical data. And that's the reason that I co-sponsored this bill, because 5th grade parents need to know, and they need to know before they put in their applications and rank these schools. Thank you.
I just want to add 2 more data points. How this is, it really is the biggest concern that I get from parents these days. And it has changed. I've been in this council for now 3 years. It has definitely changed. If you look at surveys, the #1 reason why parents choose charter schools in New York City is because of safety, for sure. You can look at all the data, all the survey data on that. And second is, as I mentioned, when I got elected here 3 years ago, the #1 concern was academics and, COVID, but mostly academics. Nowadays, it really is violence and safety. It's the #1 reason why people contact us. And so I really think that this is the major concern. In a way, parents have given up on having strong academics at our schools, and at least now they just want that their kids should be safe.
To speak on this particular resolution. Moving on, the next resolution for discussion is resolution number 247. And by the way, there are copies for those of you that are here. There should be copies of all the resolutions on that table over there. Please feel free to look on that table for the copy. Resolution number 247, resolution in support of our D2 LGBTQ plus student and families. Anyone like to speak on this resolution?
Yeah, I'll start off. Thank you. The last meeting, some of you may know, I voted against a similar resolution, or I think I abstained from a similar resolution just because I didn't think we had, there were comments in there that I just don't think we had enough information about to evaluate, and that was my thinking. After that meeting, I started drafting with some others a resolution that I thought did make sense and would work, and I thought that would be sensitive to the LGBTQ community and supporting LGBTQ students and families. At the same time, Councilmember Savage was also working on it as well, and then in the end, we were able to work together and get to one that I think is pretty strong. I think it's a strong resolution that makes a strong statement, and I do want to thank Councilmember Savage for working with me on this. I'm proud that we were able to do this work. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. And I really would like to thank you in particular on the work you did on this over the past month. At the last meeting, I actually also abstained on the previous version of this, which was resolution 242. And I'd like to make a few comments that relate to the previous resolution as well as this one and the work that you did, Greg. And, since most people were not here at the last meeting, I would like to let people know that I have been championing what we used to call gay rights since I started in high school in the late 80s. Anybody remembers what the climate was in the late 80s and early 90s? A very different environment we lived in there, and the issues have progressed significantly since then. Before I was 18, I even wrote. I ran a student organization that sponsored legislation in Massachusetts, where I grew up, to add sexual orientation as a protected class to Mass General Law, Chapter 76, Section 5. Others have gone on to expand protected classes in public schools in Massachusetts. I also started the Gay State Alliance at my high school, something that was also wildly popular. But I say this in way of talking about why I abstained last month and why I plan on voting yes this month in support of this resolution. And Craig, this is a credit to you and how collaborative you've been over the past month. I was very disappointed at last month's meeting because instead of tabling the resolution, the co-sponsors, the other co-sponsors of this bill, pushed to vote on something that we requested that we step back from and amend with what seems to me the sole purpose of getting a negative vote. And I think that that was a disservice to the community that we are trying to protect here. And I think it was manipulative in terms of trying to get people to pass a resolution where they were saying, yes, if you support the LGBTQ plus community, you must also support all of the DOE policies around protecting that community. Transitive property of math, A supports B, B supports C, A supports C. And I think it was very disappointing to me, someone who has championed this community for decades, to see people using this issue as a weapon to try and get people to use a resolution to support policies they don't support. And so I'm very happy that you took out that language, Craig. I don't think this resolution is perfect, but I think it goes a long way and a much more collaborative way to supporting something that I think we can all get behind here. And I'm really pleased to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, can you pass it back?
Okay, so I'm the manipulative council member who said we shouldn't table because people worked very hard on that resolution. There are a number of us who worked on that resolution, and many of us voted for it, including our president, Len Zuckerman. And I'm very grateful to Len for acknowledging the importance of that resolution last month and voting in favor of it and giving his support to the community. And there was no nefarious plot. Every month we put forth resolutions. We comply with the bylaws. We submit them in advance. Everyone gets a chance to read them. Sometimes we actually collaborate on them. Sometimes some of us do and some of us don't. But we put forth a resolution because we put work into it. And we thought it was important. And we thought we didn't need to wait another month to affirm our support for the LGBTQ community. And this isn't Massachusetts, and it isn't 1980s or 1980s. It's 2024, we're in Manhattan, we're in New York, and we have a community that needs our support. And they don't need to wait for a month while we hem and haw about, do we support all these policies or do we not? We put forth a resolution in good faith and honesty, and quite frankly, the discussion about tabling it was I think, manipulative in bad faith. But anyway, I'm glad we have it here this month. And
I'll just add to that to say that perhaps in addition to what you just shared, Gavin, I would also suggest another interpretation that perhaps those of us who wrote and believed in this last month cared about the symbolism that it represented and the children and the families that it was seeking to support and reach them.
So before we move on to, I'm talking about 247. I think it was going to become pretty clear as people are going to kind of link these two resolutions, 247 and 248. And I don't think there's any conflict between the two. First of all, I want to say I was proud to vote for the resolution last month. And I think the messaging that is sent out from the District 2 Community Education Council tonight will make it absolutely loud and clear that the District 2 Community Education Council supports the LGBT community. Now, that being said, we have differences on certain issues that pertain to sports, for example. But I think this resolution and the way that Allison described it and Jessica talked about, and Gavin, it gives me hope, like you said, it gives me hope that as a community, we can really collaborate and find enough common ground on these issues. And they can be very divisive. They can be very passionate and invoke really passionate feelings amongst all of us. But it gives me hope seeing this resolution that it was also going to pass tonight, that we can work together. If you look at the people who are sponsoring it, there's a pretty big, usually a pretty big ideological difference there. That's why I'm proud. I think I think this is a really positive resolution. Thank you for addressing the issues that were raised last month. I think it just shows that, contrary to what is being broadcast out there sometimes, the Education Council really is an inclusive community. With that, but are inclusive. We do support all of our students. We may have disagreements on certain issues, but I think this messaging that goes out tonight is thank you.
I also abstained last time because as Allison said, I also have a lot of concerns. I have less concerns about this resolution, but I still have a few concerns. The first point I will make is that the reason why somebody votes against this, it doesn't mean that you want to put transgender kids to be bullied. I think nobody who serves here voluntarily, we all give our time and our resources to be here, don't care about kids. But definitely there's a lot of disagreement about how this issue should be dealt with. But I want to just share a few concerns that I have. One is that there's a lot of recommendations here about trainings and having more staff. As you all saw, we have a 4% budget cut for next year. So anything that we're adding, we need to also make a recommendation for what we are taking out. Because we are, the city and particularly our schools are in a very, very difficult budget situation. And so I think that I would be more comfortable voting for this resolution if there was not the third and the last therefore. And then just the other thing that I want to say is that I've been on the safety committee for a very long time. I talk to the parents who really so frustrated. Their kids have really struggled with violence and bullying. They have tried to talk to the teacher, to the principal, Superintendent Kelly, and they usually come to me when they are like, okay, nobody has solved my problem. I have never received in these last 3 years a call from a transgender parent asking for support. The violence that exists in our schools, and I have helped so many parents get a safe transfer, is the violence that is in our streets, and that, you know, it's spilling over in our schools, and there's a lot of bullying violence, there's a lot of families trying to get a safety transfer. I have not received that about this issue, and so I really, I would love to see data about specific cases in our district where, you know, this has happened. I'm not denying that it happens in our district, in the city, but in our district, as I said, as the chair of the safety committee, I have not seen that particular issue. And so I really want to thank Craig again for working collaboratively. He also consulted me on some issues. And again, one last point. We have so many huge problems in our district. Learning loss. The first graders in kindergarten can all learn to read because they were masked for a very long time. Parents who wanted academic acceleration were leaving. When we talk about this every month, we never get this amount of media. We never get, you know, important people here. We never get elected officials. We only get all this attention when we're talking about cultural arts. And I think that's why our schools are in such bad shape. Because nobody wants to talk about literacy, nobody wants to talk about the learning loss, nobody wants to talk about the budget cuts that we're gonna have to deal with. And that's what we should actually be talking about. The things that are really affecting a very large number of students in our community and why parents are leaving our district and our city.
We didn't put 248 on the agenda.
I want to speak to 247, and I just want to echo some concerns that I brought up last month. But I want to say that overall, of course, I support a resolution that calls to support District 2 LGBTQ+ students and families. I support those families the way I support all of the families in this district, and I will credit all of the authors of this resolution with having good intentions to try to support a particular community. I see nothing wrong with that. I see it as a positive thing. But what I brought up last month, and I bring up again this month, is that the language around suicide is irresponsible. In the second edition of talking about suicide in LGBT populations, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention partnered with the Trevor Project, the Human Rights Campaign, the Transgender Law Center, GLAAD, the National LGBTQ Task Force, and other organizations to give guidelines about how to talk about suicide in the LGBTQ community. I mentioned this last month, but I didn't have the specifics, and I urge the authors to look at it. There is a 12-point guideline in the report that I referenced that talks about how you should and how you should not talk about suicide with this youth, with this particular population. And I want to highlight number 7, which says, don't attribute a suicide death to a single factor such as bullying or discrimination, or say that specific anti-LGBT law or policy will, quote, cause, unquote, suicide. The 6th whereas of this resolution does exactly that. It says bullying and discrimination significantly increase the risk of youth suicide. And it doesn't do what these recommendations suggest, which is understand and articulate that suicide is multifactorial and understand that social contagion, particularly among kids, is a significant problem that should be, that the adults who are talking about these issues should be mindful of. So I will just say that I strongly recommend that the authors remove that 6 whereas because it doesn't comply with these recommendations, and that the overall, but I do also want to echo what Daniela said, is that urging more spending in a time of budget cuts without articulating the offsets and where you would take money away from is not terribly responsible, and I don't agree with that. But I can overlook that because we all call to spend more money that we don't have all the time. But when it comes to suicide, I think it's a very serious concern, and how we talk about that within our schools is something that we should be extraordinarily mindful of.
Gavin?
As I pass it to Gavin, I want to say thank you, Dawn, that's great, and I'd be happy to propose an amendment when it comes time to vote, if you'd like to strike that language to make you in favor of this.
First of all, I want to say I've also read that point as well, and I don't think that this particular whereas clause, contradicts anything in those recommendations. And first of all, they are recommendations for speaking with youth about suicide. And we are not speaking with youth about suicide. We're speaking in an adult audience. We're talking about something that is very much at the policy level among parents, among teachers, and among administrators. So I don't think this is a really and I think it is important that we can't just bury this fact. I mean, of course, there's multiple factors that go into anything. But I think by ignoring it, we don't help. And so I think it should remain here. It's an important.
Anyone else on that side want to make any more comments? You want to, or
Vice President now, or what we vote?
well, we're discussing the resolution, so you would.
I propose to strike the 6 whereas. But we can vote on the amendment and then vote on the actual later.
Sorry, I need to say one thing.
I don't know where Robert's rules request that I make that motion to amend.
And just on that point, Gavin essentially said it, but I just want to echo what he said. It is brushing over a very serious problem, as you have said, that is connected to this, and mental health in general is extremely multifaceted. This is part of the story, and is part of these children's story, and it deserves to have breath there because it is devastating, and it really does do a disservice to this and to the community we are talking about to take that out. And I think it's pretending about something that is not okay.
So right now there's a motion on the floor, but it's not been seconded yet. Okay. So discussion, I already had some discussion, anyone else wish to discuss this particular proposed map?
I agree with Maud that you cannot, I'm not an expert on this issue, but that you cannot just say suicide because of that. But I don't think that's what it says here. It just says that significantly increases the risk. That's not saying that is the main cause. I mean, I think it is possible that a child is struggling with some issues and then some bullying that, adds to that. So I will vote no for this amendment because I don't think that what Maud is saying is actually what is written here.
So I'll just say something to the point that Len made earlier, that 247 and 248 are not technically linked together, but they share some concerns. And I think it is disingenuous to say, oh, we're not talking to the kids here with this resolution. This is just among grown-ups with regard to 247. But then with 248, all of a sudden, we're not just talking among grown-ups about policy that affects sports. Instead, we're communicating all this messaging to children. So it can't be one for one resolution and something else for the other resolution. Either the things we say among adults are things that our kids hear, and all parents know that to be true. What we say filters down to our kids and they know what we're talking about, or not. So just with regard to that, let's keep it consistent. Either the things we're saying are heard by the children and the messages are transmitted, in which case we really should be careful about suicide language and telling trans kids, oh, if you experience bullying, you're more likely to commit suicide, which I think is a very dangerous thing to do. And if that stays in here, I'm going to abstain on this resolution. If we can remove that language, my other concerns notwithstanding, I would vote in support of this resolution because I do think it's well-intentioned and meant to be supportive.
Anyone else wish to discuss the proposed amendment? In that case, I'm going to call for a vote on the proposed amendment. Ask our recording secretary to record the vote. So there's a motion on the floor to strike the sixth whereas clause in the resolution number 247. That motion has been seconded. You can either vote for or against, or you can abstain.
Thank you.
So the vote is to, well, the vote was to strike, correct? The vote is to strike the sixth whereas clause.
Right, so if you're voting yes, you're voting to strike it, okay.
And we just, for the record, Councilmember Love has joined us. Welcome. Okay. Pre-Boparai. A yes strikes the clause, a no does not strike it.
Yes, strikes the reference to suicide.
Boparai, no. Allison Bowen.
Yes.
Allison Bowen, yes. Daniela Egorov.
No.
Daniela Egorov, no. Gavin Healy.
No.
Gavin Healy, no. Charles Love. Okay, a vote is yes, no, or abstain. Take that as abstain. Okay, I will take that as Charles Love abstain. Okay. Maud Marin.
Yes.
Maud Marin, yes. Samuel Patel is not here. Jessica Savage. Jessica Savage, no. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg, no. Sabina Serenise.
No.
Sabina Serenise, no. Leonard Silverman.
No.
Leonard Silverman, no. Craig Slutskin is a no. The motion loses 2 to 8 to 1. 2, 8, and 1.
Close debate on resolution number 247, unless Charles wants to make any comments on it. Okay. Next item is a debate or discussion on resolution number 248, resolution calling for a comprehensive review and drafting an NYCPS guidelines on gender with regard to the application and impact on female athletes participating in physical education, intramural and competitive public school athletic league PSAL sports.
Sorry.
Since I know this is what you all came to hear, thank you for staying this long. I'd like to give you a little more of my background here because I played competitive sports growing up at 7 to 12 high school in Massachusetts. I was the captain of 2 of those varsity sports, lettered in 3, and I went on to play District 1 women's field hockey in college. And so I spent a sum total of, nearly 10 years of my life playing competitive girls and then women's sports. And I could talk ad nauseum about this resolution and about just about any resolution or topic that is current today in girls or women's sports all night, all week, all month. And those conversations would be based on my lived experience. Probably most things you can think of in terms of a topic around this, I had a data point from one of the teams. But the point is, no matter how many stories I have or how well read I am not an expert. I should not be the one who is deciding what the policies are here in District 2 or New York City on this. And what this resolution is doing is asking to convene a committee of the experts. We all have a lot of opinions, but what we need to do is to have experts making this decision. And I don't believe that when these guidelines were released in 2019, that the right experts were consulted. Obviously, we want to consult female athletes, we want to consult coaches, but we also want to consult doctors. We want to consult evolutionary biology experts. We want to consult the people who understand the physiology behind the issues and allow that committee the chance to make recommendations. You know what, they might come up with the decision that these gender guidelines are right, that they should be. They may not. This has obviously changed a lot in the last 5 years since 2019, and I think it's important for a lot of the reasons that have been mentioned previously in many articles and even here by speakers tonight, on health and safety concerns, on fairness, and frankly, complying with Title I. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this, Gavin?
Just one. Send that there.
So, I'm definitely a no vote in this resolution. I was elected to this council starting in July of 2023, but I've probably attended almost every meeting since sometime early 2020. And this is the first time I have ever heard this council, like anyone up on this sort of table here or anyone in the audience, talk about sports. Like it never happened. So we know this is not about sports. And why now? Why are we looking at the 2019 resolution, like procedures now? And I think there's a lot of important things we need to be talking about. It's true. The fair student funding presentation, sorry, Kelly, but it was a little boring, but it's a fair student funding. But those things, the 0.12, weight to students in temporary housing, those are like important and they're transformative and we mean a lot to them. So I'm really glad to hear you talk about that. And we do need to be bored with those things, and so it's good. And we should have been, Kelly McGuire and I should have been at the PEP meeting tonight talking about City Knoll, because City Knoll is merging with Basin History High School, and I'm the liaison for that school, so it would have been very important to me to attend. Unfortunately, we scheduled this meeting the same night. And I do understand that, I did hear that Chancellor Banks at that meeting tonight, I wish I could have heard it in person, but spoke about this resolution and condemned it, as he should. As the leader of our school system, with nearly 1 million students of various backgrounds. And so I guess I just want to say that, for me, this is not about sports. It's about respect for students, and we can debate all these different things, for student funding, admissions, what have you. But we shouldn't be up here debating students' right to exist as their authentic selves in a public space. And that's what our schools are. And what this resolution is asking for, it's asking for a review committee to look back and find a way to limit students' access. And the resolution is very clear that this is, the drafters feel that the important thing is not gender identity, but biological sex. And there's a reason why we have policies in place that provide that students should be allowed to participate in sports based on gender identity and not biological sex. First of all, they're in place to comply with, New York State and other federal laws, which provide those protections. And they also just make sense, I think, from a standpoint of parental rights, of child rights, and of human rights. I don't want anyone on this council or any other adult to have a say in my child's gender identity or my child's access to a right in school. I shouldn't have to submit those things to a committee of experts, of evolutionary biology. Those are just students. Those are just human rights that we should have and we should protect for our students. And so this resolution is invasive. If you want to force students to prove their biological sex in order to participate in a sport, you are asking an invasive, a deeply intimate question about someone that they should not have to answer. And what is next? The bathroom, the healthcare, it's just appalling. So we have these things in place to protect our students, and our students need protection. We have a group that is increasingly marginalized, and people are going around, adults, putting a target on their back, and that's what this is. It's putting a target on the students' backs. And so I will definitely vote against it, and I'm just ashamed to be up here tonight.
I think most of argument made by our community members who showed up this evening or were able to attend this evening. So, this is not about supporting girls in sports. I also was an athlete. Threatened by rights issues, the human rights issue, and I cannot believe in 2024 that this is the conversation that we are spending our time having.
Kevin, you said we have never talked about sports here. I think you missed all the meetings that we talked about the COVID restrictions that didn't let students play sports because they didn't have the COVID vaccine. I put 3 resolutions on that. We talked extensively about that. So that was about access to sports. I think you missed the meetings where we discussed where kids were having to play sports with masks outside in very high temperatures, and parents were even concerned that some kids were going to pass out and were getting dehydrated. So I think you missed all those meetings where we talked about access to sports. There were no elected officials here talking about access to sport at that point, and that was impacting a much larger number of students about this issue. So we have talked about access to sports. The media wasn't here. Elected officials were not here. Again, they don't care about issues that really impact a very large number of students. They care about issues that are cultural wars, going to get more clicks, but this is not what is impacting our community. And we discussed extensively about access to sports during COVID.
No.
Bring up some points. One, and I know you're speaking from the heart, Gavin. I do want to mention that the majority of this council is new and different, right, with a different perspective. And I hope that we can respect that. I also feel that hearing the community that's present here today, I want to acknowledge and I understand that where you're coming from, but perhaps I also feel that this resolution is being misunderstood. Students have the right to exist. I wouldn't be here as a parent of 3 kids if I didn't believe in inclusivity, if I didn't even believe in providing all our kids equal, equitable education, everyone should feel loved, should feel that they belong. But this resolution, however, is asking for a discussion, a reassessment, including medical professionals to discuss and evaluate. It's kind of mind-boggling for me to see that medical professionals were not included when those guidelines were put into place. That, how can something that involves biologically, that we did not include medical professionals? For that reason, I feel that it is something that we should consider and evaluate.
Letters isn't loud enough. Everybody, 156 parents, community members, wrote letters stating that this, they find this resolution full and children's experience and as far as based on PSAL has had 0 complaints from family members. Reached out to another providers, nonprofits, provide sports in schools. They've had 0 complaints. Big points.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I just want to say, 2 things. One is we never talked about sports. We talked about masking. We talked about vaccines. If there was a discussion about sports, it was incidental. And that was during COVID, and during Omicron, I think we had like 100 new cases in my school right before February break, and I would have liked to have some advocacy from this council on that. Misgendering of children, and adults is harmful. It's hurtful, and it happens, and particularly during adolescence. And if students are allowed to participate based on their gender identity, then the policy is easy. We respect people's understanding of their own gender identity, and I think that we shouldn't be second guessing. And if we are following a policy based on biological sex, the potential for misgendering children is intense, is incredible. Because you think about this. The most competitive people in school sports are not student athletes. They're parents of student athletes. And I think we've already seen some cases nationally where there are, adults who will say, oh, is that person who beat my daughter, is that person really the gender they say they are? Is that person really a girl? And just imagine how harmful that would be to students. And students don't need more harm. This policy, by rolling back these policies, which are there to protect students from harm, we will do damage to people. And this is not about CECD2. This is never about CECD2. This is about some of our members who are moms for liberty, who went to their town hall in January, and there are groups. They're not grassroots groups. They're not funded by the people. They're not. My talking about them isn't going to raise their donations. There's like 2 people who provide 75% of the funding for Moms for Liberty, two old guys in Texas. And they are pushing these policies on us. And by coming here to New York City, this is a stunt. And we are wasting our children's time, and we're wasting our teachers' time, we're wasting everyone's time. And the losers are our students, and the losers are our families. And I just think we have to say no. We have to. And so let's go back. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about fair student funding. Let's talk about equity for students with disabilities. Hell, let's talk about gifted and talented, whatever. But those are the things we should be talking about, not this.
A big question. Yeah, that's fine. It's not a comment, it's a question. I don't have a comment, I actually have a question, and I don't know if anybody on this committee, on this council would have the answer, and if they don't, that's fine. My understanding is there is a lawsuit against the NCAA on this topic. I don't know much about it. That's what I'm actually asking. Is there a lawsuit? Isn't that college sports? I don't follow college sports, sorry. I follow Yankees and Jets, and that's it, sorry. The NCAA, I think it's college sports. Is there a law? I thought I read that there is a lawsuit, and if somebody could just talk about it, where it is, what the lawsuit's about, is it, where in the federal system is it? Because I don't know this that well, and I just want to educate myself on that. Thank you.
It's the National Collegiate Athletic Association, so it's all sports for college.
Right, I can't speak. I know it's filed, the NCAA lawsuit that was filed, it's filed by female athletes, I believe 12 of them, I could be wrong, you'd have to double check that number. With regard to the policies that were the same policies that are at issue here, using gender identity in lieu of biological sex. It's just been filed, so that will take some time to wend its way through the court system or reach a settlement. But I think, as Allison said, no, I think as one of our public speakers mentioned before, there is across professional sporting bodies, across professional athletes themselves, including trans athletes, and across the collegiate athlete world and the various other sporting agencies. There's a tremendous amount of movement and question on this issue. And I'd just like to say, Gavin had talked about rolling back, and other people have talked about undoing things. As accurately said, this resolution calls to hear from more voices, and over the last 5 years, there have been not only a number of lawsuits, but for the first time, we have heard from female athletes who have had to compete in situations that are new and different in the last few years because of the gender identity changes, the rules changes that have been made in so many different sports categories. We heard, and what we've heard tonight from so many people, and I just want to say that I really do hear loud and clear, and I respect and I understand folks who are saying we want to defend the trans community and we want to defend children who are identifying as trans. I think that is, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a thing I can relate to as an advocate, standing up for people who are minorities and who are marginalized and who are oppressed. I applaud it. I think it's great. What I am saying, and what this resolution calls for, is to say, let's hear from all of the impacted voices. Of course, that includes the voices of trans people, trans athletes, 100%. But what I'm hearing in return is, no, only one point of view gets to be heard. Only one point of view gets to be discussed. And what I'm saying is, I have 2 PSAL athletes, teenage athletes in my house right now. One was at an open house for her school, manning the sports booth tables so the incoming high school students could see what the sports options are at her high school. And my son, who's a PSAL athlete, is at a meet, actually. So I know how much Jake's put into this. I've been to many games. I have worked with coaches. I have talked to parents who have spent a great deal of time with their kids, supporting their kids, and I know how important the athletes are. We didn't hear from any of those student athletes today because they're in school and they're in their sports and they're doing what they, what really deeply matters to them. So this resolution genuinely and earnestly says, can we please hear from more voices? And of course, after hearing from all those voices, one of the results of a committee could be we got it right the first time, let's keep it exactly the same. But there could be other outcomes, there could be other suggestions, and you can't know what the good solutions are unless you hear all of the different ideas in the room. And that's what this resolution is calling for. It's reasonable, it's respectful, and it's respectful of every single one of the points of view that was in here in this room and all of the points of view that weren't here, because we don't have the student athletes here speaking tonight. We don't have the full spectrum of people who are impacted by these guidelines here. So, I just ask people to please read the resolution carefully and understand what it's calling for and what it's not calling for, because I really think this is a respectful and thoughtful resolution. Thank you.
So it's goes against my better judgment. I wanted to just not say anything. It's Craig asked a question. I'd like to ask a quick question to Superintendent McGuire. I know there's roughly around 1 million students in this system. I know that, but 9, 8, whatever. I know, and I've seen data points on what things, whether we're talking buildings and mention and a lot of mention. There are data points on demographics, right? Black students some data. Track gender identity. How many female students, how many male students? And they can choose whatever they want as a student.
You hand him the mic so we can hand him the mic so people at home can hear the answer.
And Charles called this in, we can't hear you.
Yes. Data around student gender is students are entering. But yes, the students transitions and identifies other than the gender which they're assigned at birth. That can. I wasn't sure if that was tracking. So, do we have some rough estimate of how many students have to be based on what they put? You don't know. Okay.
So in wading into this debate, I recognize that you're damned if you do. Recognize that, frankly, there's nothing that I say here tonight that is going to change anyone's opinion on this issue. But I do want to hopefully get a few points out and a few points across that I feel personally are important. With regard to this resolution, Ruth Bader Ginsburg talked about supporting women's rights and advocating before the courts, how the courts were behind society evolving. The country had evolved, but the courts had not yet reached that level of understanding. I think that's important because I think this is an issue where our definitions of gender are continuing to evolve. When you may have had a belief years ago that we had two genders, now there's an understanding which I recognize and I acknowledge that you can have more than two genders, and that there are people who identify in all types of different combinations of different genders. I get that. But it's important that we have this debate. So I disagree with you, Jessica, when you say that, well, why are we talking about this? We can stick our head in the sand and we can kind of refuse to acknowledge that there are differences in athletes that play sports, or we can try to have an honest, open, transparent discussion about these issues. And this resolution, and there was a lot of back and forth that went into the language that was chosen, tries to use, I believe is successful, using the most neutral language. It recognizes and acknowledges that nobody, regardless of your gender or gender identification, should be discriminated against. I think it's absolutely clear. But I also understand that there are many people, unfortunately, in today's society that are going to look at a resolution like this and say this is the beginning of the slippery slope. As you pointed out, Gavin, and I believe you started with you, this is just the beginning, correct? This is just the chipping away, the eroding of transgender rights. It starts a little, it's like kind of like we hear the arguments about abortion, for example. We start with little restrictions here and there, and next thing you know, the Supreme Court is ruling that abortion is unconstitutional. But I think it's important that we work together, that we have these discussions, and that the decisions that are made with regard to public policy are done openly and transparently. And this resolution points out that that wasn't necessarily done with regard to transgender issues with regard to sports. And all that this is asking for is that a committee to look at this. Now, I was questioned by a reporter yesterday for 45 minutes who said to me, Len, if this resolution passes, what about, don't you think that's going to send the wrong message? And then if it sends the wrong message, don't you think the next thing that's going to happen is transgendered athletes are going to be banned from participating in sports? And it was a constant hypothetical. And I said, no, I don't believe that. Because I truly believe what this resolution is about is empowering parents and others to be stakeholders in the policy decisions that the Department of Education makes behind the scenes. And when they do those decisions behind the scenes, it gives rise to paranoia. It gives rise to people saying, hey, look what these woke people are doing. Or it gives rise to conspiracy theories. Like, oh, they're trying to convert my child, or they're doing this. That's why it's so important that we have these debates. We have, if anything comes to a resolution like this, then we discuss these issues. And I am open to understanding how this could potentially be perceived as being transphobic. I get it, I do. But at the same time, it's important to have these type of debates. We can't pretend, and we can't sit here and we can't say that there aren't actual biological differences that manifest themselves in a sporting or athletic environment where athletes are competing that might not necessarily result in a level playing field. And that's why I support this resolution, despite the fact that I know, trust me, I'm getting a lot of grief. But I do believe that it's important that parents have a say in those policy decisions that are made by the DOE. And this resolution, just so we know, we have no authority here. Our resolutions are not binding. But we have these discussions because we want to acknowledge that society has evolved, that it is evolving, that it's continuing to evolve and change those definitions of gender. But those definitions changing have real world consequences. And they have real world consequences that occasionally might manifest themselves in unequal situations where you have sporting events. So for example, do we put an asterisk next to an event? I'm not an expert on this either. I know I heard Caitlyn Jenner, she spoke about this issue, who came down strongly against certain issues here. Again, I think this is just asking for a committee not to roll back and say that we don't want transgender athletes to participate in sports. We just want to come up with some solution that is made by all of the stakeholders, including parents and athletes and female athletes and transgender athletes, to come up with some solution. It's not going to be easy. Do I know the solution? Absolutely not. I don't know, but we need to talk about it. We can't put our heads in the sand and say it doesn't exist. We have to have these conversations and not be afraid to have these conversations with one another. No matter how hard it is, no matter how polarized it is, no matter how difficult and no matter how much slack we get. And that's why I think what we do here, again, people may disagree, people may call us transphobic, people may say we're not engaging in what we should be engaging in, which is academics. Yes, Charles raised his hand, I get it.
Someone's great every time they say that, yeah.
Okay, but the social issues that affect our children can be just as important as the academic issues. If we acknowledge that there can be more than one, we also need to acknowledge that there are differences between differences. Again, some of those differences might be physical. This isn't about someone identifying, this is just about physical differences. And this, again, this resolution just pertains to Israel sports. Again, that's it. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, ban athletes. We just want to have open, honest discussions Allison mentioned, to really deal with those issues in a way that everyone feels that they're all being respected. But when the Department of Education comes up with a decision and decides what the policy is without parent involvement, that's not a good thing. And that on any issue, that's where we should be standing up on behalf of parents and say, we want to be involved. And if our kids, whether they're cis, trans, want to be involved in that process, that's wonderful. But we can't just not have these discussions and say it's too frightening, it's too fear-mongering, it's too threatening, it creates an unsafe space. I think in New York City, I think we're intelligent enough, can be respectful enough, can be open enough to have these conversations. And that's these conversations. I don't see anything wrong with this resolution. I think it raises some issues that our District 2 parents have. I'm going to support it. And so, for Ramel, anyone else have any comments that they would? Next item is our second public speaker session. For those of you who are not signed up, if you wish to speak at our second public speaking session, you have a sign-up sheet. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. If you spoke at the first session, or you feel your comments were unfinished, or you want to speak again, please feel free. And on the list, we won't recognize you, so hopefully you sign up. Will you read them? Anyone raise their hand in the back that hasn't signed up that wants to speak?
Pass that mic.
Okay. I'm just going to ask you to come up. Be careful. Don't trip over any wires.
It wasn't. Okay, we'll try it again. The first one will be Megan Madison. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second to figure it for another time.
No problem.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm getting this. Give me one second. I'm going to give you 15 extra seconds to make sure it works, so you'll tell me. Hold on, I have to start button. Is it going? You don't want me singing. Yeah, you're fine.
By the way, those scales will not count against your 2 minutes.
I believe that what we focus on grows and was not intending to speak on 248 tonight. I know and feel it is a deep distraction to the important work that this council has to do. But we need to talk about 248 this is today. I hope it's the last time this group of people talks about this resolution. Leonard, I hear you, and you don't get it. Maud and Allison, we see the introduction of this resolution for what it is. It is an attempt to get media attention, frame the narrative as a quote-unquote reasonable debate, and advance a national racist, transphobic, and hateful agenda led by the white Christian nationalist movement. Thank you for your yes vote on resolution 247, and we still see you. Allies to the LGBTQ community don't sponsor transphobic resolutions. I don't care how benign you try to make it sound. Maud and Allison, in between last month's meeting and this one, you did not do what Craig did. You said publicly on the record a genuine offer to collaborate with the sponsors of 247. You did not do that. Instead, you used your time to write and introduce a new hateful transphobic resolution. When your words and your actions don't line up, we see you. Daniela and Charles, I hear your frustrations. There are more important conversations we need to be having. Why, Daniela, is the media here today? not the sponsors of 247, the sponsors of 248. Why are we still talking about this quote unquote culture worth issue? Again, Maud, this resolution will die today.
You can start wrapping
Stay
it up.
mad.
You can wrap it up. You can finish your sentence. Finish your sentence.
That's it. Stay mad, Maud.
Okay. So, and I apologize because I skipped somebody. It was in the wrong column, so I apologize. It looks like Kate Wells. Sorry. It looks like Kate Wells. Wheeler. Oh, sorry, Kate Wheeler. Sorry, I apologize.
Is that person here?
Okay. Okay. Elena Daniels. I apologize. She spoke. That's what she spoke. And I apologize. I think I spoke your mispronounced your first name again. I apologize.
Not yet. My name is Elena Daniels. And when I was last with this microphone, I felt the need to use too much of my time explaining my qualifications.
You want to come back? Do you want us to come back to you? Okay, that's fine. Chase Strangio. Again, I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Thank you again, Chase Strangio, District 2 parent. I also grew up in the 1990s in Massachusetts playing women's sports, but the thing that I remember from my experience was not the professional career that ended up resulting from it, was the relationships that I had with my teammates, the lessons that I learned from athletics, and that's why I'm a civil rights lawyer today, to advocate for those experiences for everyone. But I also believe that I am actually an expert. I'm a Title IX expert, I'm a constitutional expert, I've litigated every single federal court case on this issue in this country. I can tell you everything you want to know about the NCAA case, including from the NCAA lawyers, or I was on the phone prior to this meeting. But what I'll say specifically about this resolution and how it's being framed. The reality is that there is an opportunity to be heard on the meaning of Title IX, on the meaning of New York State law. That comes to you vote for in your state and federal elections, that comes from the notice and comment period. But what this guidance is, it is mandated by law. I have been in more courts, I've cross-examined more evolutionary biologists and endocrinologists and experts on this issue, and I can tell you that these issues are litigated in the courts. It is not the authority of New York City to say what Title IX means or to say what New York State law means. We don't do civil rights law by committee. Lots of people in this country also believe that men should get paid more than women athletes because they play more people watch women's sports. Obviously not true in light of Caitlin Clark, but nonetheless, people do say that. That doesn't mean that we then, in our school, discuss by committee whether or not women's athletics should get less funding than men. That's not the purview of the way in which we do civil rights laws in this country. The very point of our state and federal constitutions is to protect minority rights from majoritarian rule. So this isn't about whether or not parents were not allowed to participate. We all were allowed to participate. Pay attention to notice and comment. Pay attention to what the laws that you're passing. Pay attention to who represents you in state and federal legislatures. But at the end of the day, we don't do this by debate. That's not how it works. And asking for a debate is an affront to how civil rights law works, and it always works in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Rose, do you want to go, Ms. Daniel? Great. Rose Arce.
You people that have done this too much. Over 12 years, and I had a child in public schools, tell you that there are tens of thousands of kids in our schools that go hungry. There are kids that don't speak English. There are kids that are not getting an adequate education. You admitted all of less than a dozen kids to suicide every single year. That doesn't concern you? But this is what you people are spending your time on? It is appalling that you were elected to office. It's disturbing. I mean, what's next? You guys are going to do a committee. Let's investigate whether Jewish kids should be able to be in the same clubs as non-Jewish kids. Maybe there's something about them that would be dangerous. Are we going to now investigate whether kids with accents should be in regular English classes? How many kids? How many of you think your kids are ever going to meet a trans kid on a sports team? And if they did, what difference would it make if the 7th grade softball team, which by the way, most schools don't even have a proper PSAL program. And you're worried about whether, if the schools had one, somebody might encounter a trans girl. This is ridiculous. And the fact that you're looking at these two resolutions together reflects the hypocrisy of what you're doing. A resolution that is, for instance, saying we're not anti-Semitic, and then pass another resolution that says, but let's investigate Jewish kids. Anybody in the school district who's a minority group should be terrified of what is happening today. Because this is not about trans kids. This is about a movement that started when Maude and my kid were at PS41, and in a very savvy political way, chose to try to create a school system that services only kids that look like her and her family. And she enlisted all of you, and she engendered hate to do it. It is really pretty words that you're using.
So you can finish that. Finish your thought. Yeah, finish your thought.
This is really pretty words that you are using to say that some kids are more important than others. But it's not true. I have 3 children, 2 stepchildren and a child in which public schools. Hunter, Beacon, PS41, all these things.
Wrap it up.
You have no right to investigate whether my stepchild should be able to play sports or a black kid should be able to do so.
Thank you.
That
Thank
is
you for your comments.
wrong. And Rod, you are a bigot. Your movement to try to close.
Thank you for your comments.
around the city is
Thank you. Your
sick.
time is up.
And
Thank you.
All of you.
Thank you.
Thank God the CEC has a powerless body.
Thank you.
Evening for the third time, folks. My name's Linda Daniels, and I was last at this microphone. I felt the need to use too much of my time explaining my qualifications rather than refuting the attacks on trans people happening in this room, for fear of my testimony being dismissed. Then I've heard 3 hours of cisgender people talking and felt the constant and systemic silencing of transgender voices in our society. As such, I now plan to make that mistake in order to see my time as cisgender people again. Trans existence has long been a story of survival in the face of obstacles, resistance in response to discrimination, and finding joy and love in our communities. Our kids are incredibly vulnerable, and this escalating crisis has long since reached crisis levels. There are many ways to tell the story of this crisis. The science teacher in me, who loves data and graphs, to rattle off statistics. I could tell you that GLSEN's nationwide survey shows that 85% of transgender students feel unsafe based upon their gender, 77% experience discrimination, and 44% miss school due to safety concerns. I can tell you that 1 in 4 trans kids in this country changed schools because they felt unsafe. However, graphs and statistics aren't sufficient to convey the scope of this crisis. The history teacher in me loves history and policy. I could try to tell the story by talking about how since Obergefell Hodges guaranteed a right to same-sex marriage, conservative attacks have shifted to focusing on transgender people, especially trans kids. This has resulted in more anti-trans legislation being introduced at all levels of government in the last 8 years than the prior 240 years since the founding of the United States. In the beginning of 2024 alone, over 456 bills have been introduced that attack trans people's fundamental rights and our ability to exist, live, and thrive in our communities. 85% of these policy attacks have focused on trans kids, and 25% have specifically focused on schools. These policies have attempted to keep trans kids of their health care, criminalize their parents, and make trans existence in schools illegal. This current tidal wave of anti-trans violence is the result of years of work by the legal, medical, and academic establishment to construct gender and racial hierarchies and impose them on all people in our society. These structures historically served to facilitate the reproduction of a white and wealthy ruling class, well represented in this room,
If you could
and to
wrap it
pathologize
up, finish it
transgender
up.
existence.
Thank you.
I'm not done. Across the country, these attacks have almost always started in the same place, with calculated attempts by conniving politicians
Thank you.
to use a misunderstood wedge issue in order to attack trans people by starting with a focus on the most
Thank you. Your
vulnerable
time
members
is
of our
up.
community,
Thank
trans
you.
girls, especially those of color. nationally.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Because politicians.
Thank you.
Members of the press.
We'd like to be respectful to other speakers. We'd like.
Allow these hateful
Thank you.
attacks to be framed as a debate for concern
Thank you,
about
sir.
women's sports.
Sir.
As a swimmer, runner, and roller derby
Sorry,
player,
apologize.
I know that women's sports are significantly under-resourced and in need of support. While Daniela noted that we did discuss sports, I'm very curious about this body.
This is exactly the type of rudeness that we don't appreciate. I'm
Have worked to
sorry.
combat disparities between boys and girls sports in NYSL schools, in NYSL sports. I asked everybody,
You're being very disrespectful to everyone here. I'm sorry.
I asked everybody on this body, everyone in this room, everyone online, and all of the members of the press to not frame this conversation as a debate. Please name this conversation for what it is: an attempt to generate a false controversy and convince the general cisgender public to be willing to dehumanize trans people, particularly trans girls, particularly those of color. Please name this resolution for what it is: and a hateful attack on trans youth and trans people. As a teacher, I encourage my students to do close readings of text. Close reading of resolution number 248 shows that
Do you have rules in your classroom? Please, I am asking you with all respect, please respect the meeting, respect us.
With both Trump's rhetoric.
It's active as much.
As we've seen on a national level with both Trump's rhetoric,
I would expect a teacher to have a little more respect for the process. There are a lot of people here that limited their time to 2 minutes. And she's had quite a lot of time. I think after the 5-minute mark.
2025. The end goal is to drive openly trans people out of public life. I come before you this evening as a teacher, as a scientist, and as a historian, and as someone who cares about children, to ask you to vote yes on resolution number 247 to support trans students under attack. Craig, as a teacher of high-level international baccalaureate biology, I can tell you that biological sex is not binary in humans.
an hour. So I'm gonna make a motion right now to temporarily adjourn the meeting.
Set by some
Second.
members of this body.
All in
Trans
favor?
kids are not for debate. Trans kids are not something you disagree with. Trans people are not for debate. My life is not for debate. So I ask this body to vote against the transphobic
So we will resume. The only other person that signed up is Senator Hoylman, Senator Brad Hoylman. But Senator Hoylman is not in the room, I believe, and I just want to confirm that. I just want to confirm it, and that means the second public speaker session is over, and I'm going to pass it back to President Silverman.
Thank you, and on behalf of,
She's on, it's back on.
So the next item on our agenda is a vote on the resolutions. So, we'll start with resolution number 244. Would anyone like to make a motion? I'll make a motion in support of resolution 244, resolution urging the New York City Department of Education to make max. Narcan available in all schools. Okay. Some words can't pronounce, I'm sorry. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're now voting on this motion number resolution number 244. Frank, would you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. If anybody sees my reading glasses, that would be helpful. Oh, here, here's my old broken ones. Pre-Bopperai?
Yes.
Pre-Bopperai, yes. Allison Bowen?
Yes.
Allison Bowen, yes. Daniela Egorov?
Yes.
Daniela Egorov, yes. Gavin Healy?
Yes.
Gavin Healy, yes. Charles Love?
Yes.
Charles Love, yes. Maud Maron?
Yes.
Maud Maron, yes. Sonal Patel is absent. Jessica Savage? Jessica Savage is a yes. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg?
Yes.
Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg is a yes. Sabina Serenise?
Yes.
Sabina Serenise is a yes. Leonard Silverman?
Yes.
Leonard Silverman is a yes. Craig Slutskin is a yes. It passes unanimously.
And just for public information, resolutions pass by a vote of 7 votes in favor. And just take the resolution.
11.
It was 11 votes in favor. Council cannot act as a council unless 7 members. I'd like to make a motion now in support of that we vote to approve resolution number 245, entitled resolution urging the New York City Board of Elections to cease the use of public school buildings for early voting. I'd like to second that motion. Seconded, Craig, could you call the roll, please?
Pre-Bopperai?
Yes.
Pre-Bopperai, yes. Allison Bowen?
Yes.
Allison Bowen, yes. Daniela Egorov?
Yes.
Daniela Egorov, yes. Gavin Healy?
No.
Gavin Healy, no. Charles Love?
Yes.
Charles Love, yes. Maud Maron?
Yes.
Maud Maron, yes. Sonal Patel is absent. Sorry. Jessica Savage?
Yes.
Jessica Savage, yes. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg?
Yes.
Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg, yes. Sabina Serenise?
Yes.
Sabina Serenise, yes. Leonard Silverman?
Yes.
Leonard Silverman, yes. Craig Slutskin is a yes. It passes 10-1.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 246, entitled resolution requesting school safety transparency. Anyone second that motion?
Yes. Second.
Ray, could you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Pre-Bopperai?
Yes.
Pre-Bopperai, yes. Allison Bowen?
Yes.
Allison Bowen, yes. Daniela Egorov?
Yes.
Daniela Egorov, yes. Gavin Healy?
Abstain.
Gavin Healy abstained. Charles Love?
Yes.
Charles Love, yes. Maud Maron?
Yes.
Maud Maron, yes. Sonal Patel is excused. Jessica Savage? Jessica Savage, yes. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg?
Yes.
Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg, yes. Sabina Serenise?
Yes.
Sabina Serenise, yes. Leonard Silverman?
Yes.
Leonard Silverman, yes. Craig Slutskin is a yes. It passes 10-0-1.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 247, entitled resolution in support of our D2 LGBTQ plus student and families. Anyone second that motion?
Yes.
Gavin. Chair recognizes Gavin Healy as second.
Pre-Bopperai?
Yes.
Pre-Bopperai, yes. Allison Bowen?
Yes.
Allison Bowen, yes. Daniela Egorov?
Yes.
Daniela Egorov, yes. Gavin Healy?
Yes.
Gavin Healy, yes. Charles Love? Charles Love, no. Maud Maron?
Abstain.
Maud Maron abstained. Sonal Patel is excused. Jessica Savage? Jessica Savage, yes. Sorry, it's late. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg?
Yes.
Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg, yes. Sabina Serenise?
Yes.
Sabina Serenise, yes. Leonard Silverman?
Yes.
Leonard Silverman, yes. Craig Slutskin is a yes. That passes 9-1-1.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 248, resolution calling for a comprehensive review and redrafting of NYCPS guidelines on gender with regard to the application and impact on female athletes participating in physical education, intramural and competitive public school athletic league, PSAL sports. Anyone second that motion?
Second.
Sabina, Chair recognizes Sabina second. Ray, could you please call the roll call?
Pre-Bopperai?
Yes.
Pre-Bopperai, yes. Allison Bowen?
Yes.
Allison Bowen, yes. Daniela Egorov?
Yes.
Daniela Egorov, yes. Gavin Healy?
No.
Gavin Healy, no. Charles Love?
Yes.
Charles Love, yes. Maud Maron?
Yes.
Maud Maron, yes. Sonal Patel is excused. Jessica Savage? Jessica Savage is a no. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg?
No.
Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg is a no. Sabina Serenise?
Yes.
Sabina Serenise is a yes. Leonard Silverman?
Yes.
Leonard Silverman is a yes. Craig Slutskin is a yes. And it passes 8-0. to 3 to 0.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. There should be a minute packet of everyone's. And just for those of you who are still here, please be advised that the next meeting, before we get to the minutes, just be advised that the next meeting that we have is our working business meeting. There's no public speaking session during that meeting. That keeps me waiting. So, has anyone had a chance to review the minutes?
You came, but it says, it should be noted that you came in a few minutes after
You
someone.
can mark this present.
No, you're talking about on the minutes?
Oh.
Yeah, I think when you started and it says, I'll- no, you should have been, okay. We'll make it, okay, so we'll amend it.
Motion, so let's motion to amend the minutes to note that Sarah.
Section 7 of the minutes, it says you arrived.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go, okay.
I said something last.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we don't need.
And it was there next time.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a motion to approve the minutes from February 2024. All in favor? Let's do a roll call. We managed. I know we don't, but we had it. I agree. Let's dispense with the roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you, Vaughn. We have had issues. No. Next item on the agenda is business. Any new business that anyone would like to discuss? Okay. I call this meeting, my motion to adjourn. Now, we're limited in time to be here to 10 o'clock. It's just we're right into our business. Okay? I'm going to call our working business meeting for March 2024 to order. It is now 9:31 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Sure. Preet Bharat.
Yes.
Preet Bharat is here. Allison Bowen.
Here.
Allison Bowen is here. Daniela Egorov.
Here.
Daniela Egorov is here. Gavin Healy.
Here.
Gavin Healy is here. Charles Love.
Here.
Charles Love is here. Maud Marin. Maud Marin is here. Sola Patel. Sola Patel is out and excused. Jessica Savage. Jessica Savage is here. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg. Sarah Schechter Ehrenberg is here. Sabina Serenise. Sabina Serenise is here. Leonard Silverman.
Here.
Leonard Silverman is here. And Craig Sluskin is here. We have a quorum, 11 people.
Next item on our agenda, Superintendent Water, don't disappear. You know what this item is? This is the infamous update on the superintendent on process to appoint student appointee CECD2. We don't have much more time here for this term, so.
Have you started for next year?
I do not have an update.
Oh, we have an update?
I do not.
Oh, no updates, okay. I'll put this out there, again, if there's any seniors in high school that are interested in serving as our District 2 representative. I think we were considering the potential of possibly opening that up to juniors as well. Just contact District 2 CC. Next item on the agenda. Oh, sure.
Got it.
So every community education council is supposed to have a student member, and we have not had one this term. And I just want to just formally request to our superintendent and the DOE to say that I don't think we should have a student member. I don't think this would be a safe or appropriate place for a student member. I don't think that we can guarantee that a student member will be unharmed here, like emotionally, psychologically, and so I think that this is the appropriate time. I mean, maybe there'll be a time when we are, worthy of a student member. I would love to have student voice here. I'm just a little fearful of the impact that could have on a young person. Do you want a young person sitting in this room? I mean, I don't.
The next item on our agenda is discussion of the upcoming chancellor's.
No, treasurer's report.
Oh, treasurer's report, I'm sorry. We have money?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask something?
We have money for some more microphones.
I don't know if it's not the microphone, so I'll get into that in new business, but has anybody actually got reimbursed for anything here? Can I make a request between the treasurer and Victor over the next couple of weeks? Could you send an email out to all of us telling us, A, what we can be reimbursed for? Because I think it's things like childcare and cable or internet or something like that. Not cable, internet. It's the same bill for me. Internet.
No, I'll answer that.
And exactly how much and what the process is, because I think most of us, especially the new folks, don't know.
I'll briefly answer that question. Charles,
Sorry.
When we have remote meetings, more than I think it's like $700. You know that you would support hybrid meetings, right? Okay. You also entitled to transportation costs for coming back to these meetings as well as potential child care. I think I'm owed thousands of dollars now, so I'm going to be putting this time. So we're fiscal.
So, yes, I mentioned again, so far, no one has submitted anything. I feel like everyone, you spent a lot of money out of your pocket, and Craig too has helped. Past years, members have come and that their credit cards are still being charged. So we're using it from our budget, and thanks, Craig, for helping that to be resolved. And I really commend that our CEC members, everyone puts a lot of time and effort and money in making it to come here and be a voice for the community. So yes, we will send out an email showing what, and it's a very small amount, so even with transportation, maybe it'll pay for transportation coming to the meeting, but not going back home for that month for the meeting. So it's a very small amount depending, so I just want to highlight that it's not going to also cover childcare and your transportation. It's just paying for the garage downstairs is your month's allocation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion of the upcoming. So right now we are looking at May 2nd. So the way it works, just so members of the public know, is once every term, the chancellor comes to school districts and answers questions. Normally questions, we answer. The chancellor answers that question. Unfortunately, it only comes for an hour. So we have 1 hour in time to answer questions. It usually takes about 20 minutes per question. We try to get as many questions as we can. So right now it's May 2nd, 2024. I work with council members. Some questions have been submitted already. If anyone wishes to update their question or change their question, just let me know with enough time so we can formulate the order, because it'll be order. Oh, the problem. Sure.
For the question.
I'll circulate a date. Yeah, I'll circulate a date because I'm going to people. And we're not sure of the May 2nd date only because we're still not sure if the space is available. Right now, it's 131 plus 131.
That's what we had last time.
Yeah, that's the space currently. That's shipping. Yeah.
We would have to make sure that it's available because they have
that's what we're
their
doing
own
right now.
things.
So FACE is working on this. I have to. As soon as I know more information, I'll let you guys. Next item on the discussion is school liaison updates, and we will have the updates. Next item is further committee updates. Would anyone like to supplement or add anything? Number 7 on the agenda, new business. Any new business?
Two items. The first thing is just on the tech, just so folks know, all of the mics that were used tonight, they're new. I'm not an IT person, I'm an AV person. I think you all know that. We tested all of the mics before, and I want to apologize if people at home couldn't always hear. We tested all of the mics before the meeting. They all work perfectly. What I'm surmising, and again, I'm not an AV person, is that unit, which is probably not the newest unit, when all 3 mics are going at the same time, they don't all work. I think because we've had we've been in here several times and this keeps happening. And again, these are brand new mics. I bought them, so they're my mics. The owls are new, relatively new as well. I will try to coordinate with the superintendent and deputy superintendent to see if there's anything we can do for the next time we're in this room. But to some extent, we're doing our best, and I think a lot of CECs are facing the same challenges, community boards as well. Unfortunately, we get no tech support from the city. It's a separate issue. But to the folks at home and to the members of this committee, we're trying, and we try very hard every time. It is our goal to have people hear perfectly. We're trying. So I just want to note that. The second thing is that, one thing I want to talk about, and the chat tonight, and I haven't been completely monitoring the chat because I've been working on the sound and a couple of other things while I'm trying to deliberate. The chat was toxic. And I know the last council, and maybe the president talk about it, had actual guidelines and people were there supposed to monitor it because it was the people calling each other names, people talking about our appearances, people talking about each other's appearances. It's just inappropriate, and we should have that conversation at some point, about that. And I think we should, think about that. This was a particularly.
I think you should turn the channel off right now. It's still on.
It's a particularly challenging tonight, but we should start thinking about that. And also guidelines as to when the chat should be open and closed. Because I think the previous council had specific times, like maybe during the superintendent's, I don't remember, but during the superintendent's report. Right, so we should talk about that maybe at the next meeting.
Can we selectively, and I don't know the capacity of Zoom, but can we selectively turn off certain people who are not obeying the rules of
the
chat?
problem with that is we would have to come to the meeting first, say what if you.
Dedicate a person to, you can remove somebody and then they can still follow the meeting on YouTube, like in live streaming, so they still have access to view the meeting.
So you have to take them off of Zoom. You couldn't just
have to take them out of the meeting.
close their access to chat.
The problem is, and it's much different, I can say, because I having been a chat moderator before, it's different, Allison, it's different when you're doing a remote meeting. And you're sitting there and you're looking at the screen and you don't have to deal with people that are here in person. So, and we had multiple people that would kind of take turns and work together to monitor.
Right, it's very.
But somebody has to step up, and then they might not be able to really engage in what's going on. So it's a very tough situation. That being said, I agree with what the chat. I've been calling these names probably since last night when I was home. But there's a lot of things that I've been calling in the chat.
Do we have any requirement to keep the chat open at all during the meeting?
No.
No. What was decided the last term was we would try to keep the channel because we want to give members of the public an opportunity to comment. But again, I recognize that it was a slippery slope, and sometimes the comments, as we did tonight, asking their.
And what if those people are ruining for the rest of the people? I mean, if we turn off chat because of the toxicity of those comments, then it's disappointing for the rest of the people who want to constructive dialogue.
And that's something that if we can just have somebody monitoring it, maybe just glancing over it next time, we can just turn off the chat.
We're not chatting.
No,
we're not sitting here.
We're in the business station now.
Oh, I understand.
I think it's a fair point that folks in the audience aren't having a chat, so I'm not sure that folks on the Zoom
need to chat either. And I think we should consider just not having the chat open for meetings going forward.
And I'm certainly in favor of that. If we want to go on. We can do it now, or
think about it.
Yeah, we'll think about it. Right, we'll think about it, and it is a lot to discuss. And I think if you saw it, so said about us tonight, I think you would be right.
And if our next meeting has less turnout, we might have a friendly chat and people can.
Respectful chat.
Respectful
That's a better way to say it.
And I recognize that people who can't make it here for whatever reason want their voices to be heard. I get it. But you have to balance. It doesn't mean you can just put obnoxious, offensive things about council members. And
each other.
People insulting each other.
Or each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
So we have a hybrid option for the meeting, which
Yeah,
I
we've,
think that we're
we've had that
That's all
debate.
business. I know, but like, we're having a new debate, and I think, so that's why.
And I hear you if you want to do that.
Were you saying that if that's the case, we should be rejected?
I hope no councilperson felt bullied or unsafe, because that would be detrimental,
This
right?
is a
Okay,
closed meeting with no
okay.
public comment.
Next item on the agenda, so we have new business and new business here.
Not to read it out, but
Okay. Motion to adjourn, all in favor? Okay, motion adjourned, thank you.